He recalls the wild descending Guardians Festival. Once a year, the gods come down from the heavens, and everyone gathers to honor the sacred day. Then boom, anyone turning 15 gets a special blessing. That crazy power you get from these blessings, each one unlocking wild abilities, is what they call gifts, and yeah, they can hand you skills for going on adventures, making trades, or crafting your next big thing. The hero dashes to Senna and calls her name, trying to snap her awake. The girl begs for just 5 more minutes, or maybe even 5 more hours, and the boy shoots back, yeah, okay, how much longer do you want to sleep? Jim, the hero, bursts out with the news. Today is the holiday of the fallen gods. The girl snaps that her brother refuses to listen and won't obey. The boy yanks his sister out of bed and barks at her to hurry up, because they can't afford to miss the prayer. He tells her to get dressed right now. Gio thinks his sister is totally spoiled, and he's convinced that today, once the holiday gifts start, will be the day they finally grow up. The hero blurts out that they both just turned 15 this year, saying he and Senna are the same age, even though he was born a few months earlier, and then drops the bombshell that they're brother and sister. The boy says the details are a total mystery, then drops the scary thought that mom might have vanished because of her love for dad, calls their father a legendary adventurer who died more than a year ago, and tells how he and Senna started living together afterward, and finally Gio blurts out, "Let's go to the square." What? The girl's voice trembles as she admits she's terrified. She can't stop wondering what gift will drop into her life. Then her brother shrugs and says, "Only God knows." The hero beams and says he can't wait to use the gift on his next adventures, cheering like he's already picturing how his brand new abilities will change everything. Senna swears his older brother always talks just like that, and Gio shrugs, saying he doesn't care, he just wants to travel like their dad. But then Gio's like, "Yeah, there's more behind it and I'm not buying it." The girl beams with confidence and tells everyone the hero is about to land the perfect gift. She's dead sure he'll win. The brother grins and tells his sister, "You're still just as reckless as ever." Senna says she'll be happy as long as Gio backs her up, and the hero laughs back, teasing her like, "Yeah, great, now you'd better work for it too." The hero spots the crowd already dropping to their knees in prayer, and he knows he has to join them now. He tells them the tradition is simple but sacred. You pray to the gods at dawn, then you stand there, eyes locked on the sunrise. And right here, right now, he says people are hit with a special blessing. Gio throws his prayers skyward, begging for a blessing that'll light his way through every wild adventure ahead. The heroes huddle in the square with the crowd, hands clasped tight, praying like the next miracle is about to drop. Looks like this is the gift meant just for her. A goddess materializes before the young man and slams her incredible gift into his hands. The hero's face snaps with disbelief, pure shock lighting up every expression. During the hunt, one character gets a blessing that could seriously boost the family business, but another character freaks out, saying he's never heard of anything like that and calls it a useless gift. The girl fires a question at her brother, asking how everything went, and he shoots back the same thing again, what gift she got. Senna swears she's got a blessing straight from the sword god. The young man blurts out in shock, "They said that so rudely." He blurts out that it's an insanely amazing, maybe even rare gift. Then his brother chimes in that her gift could power her wild adventures, but the sister suddenly realizes he's gotten way too close. The older brother throws out an apology, admitting he got rattled, and the girl bursts into laughter, saying she figured he'd go in for a kiss. Senna leans in and demands, "So what exactly did you two give him?" The hero flashes back to the day he chased his dream of becoming a traveler, then begged for a blessing that would fuel every adventure ahead. The stunned man blurts that someone handed him a garden. The sister asks about the garden again, and the brother snaps that he's furious, because they handed it to him like it was nothing. A boy and a girl are laughing their heads off right here. Annie, with her short hair, bursts into laughter. Then Ashifa, long-haired and deadly serious, snaps that laughing at a gift from God is disrespectful and insults Gio. Annie and Shifa, brother and sister, came running to make it known. The boy blurts that he can't believe they heard him, while Senna starts to wonder if her brother can really back her up with this gift. Then Gio's fury explodes over his sister's question. She flashes a confident grin and says the gift only truly works the way you wield it. Then the young man leans in, eyes focused, looking a little confused but thinking hard, while Annie keeps laughing like it's hilarious, and the hero finally chimes in with a remark to her. He also claims the two girls are his sisters. He's known them since he was a kid. Shifa was born 3 years ago, and Annie, born a bit earlier, finally unlocked her gift at last year's autumn festival. The main character reveals the sisters have gone off as adventurers now. Annie can sniff danger with a hunter's scent, and Shifa carries an imperial prestige that demands respect, because even at her age she's already unlocked power worth honoring. He also tells everyone, "I want to be a traveler, no matter where the road leads." The hero drops a teasing clue that there's one big, unavoidable reason behind everything. Gio gets shoved the other way and Annie blurts out an apology, because she says Gio can't be an adventurer with Shefa. The boy blurts out, "Why'd you say that?" As Senna and Shifa clash in heated arguments, then Annie snaps at Senna asking about her gift and Senna offers to take a look. A long-haired girl tilts her head and asks, "So what's the blessing of the sword god?" And the short-haired girl just shakes her head and blurts, "Never heard of it." Shefa squints at the name and says this gift has to be terrifyingly powerful, and Senna fires back that she trusts her own strength and vows to grow into a real swordswoman. Then Annie chimes in, hyping her up like, "You should be an adventurer for real." What? She shoots her an invitation to tag along with their crew, Center Greece. And he snaps that they need a new participant right now and fires the question at Skiff. Does she agree? Skiff shrugs and says, "If it's Senna, then I'm totally fine with it." The boy assumes Senna has joined Shifa's crew, then blurts out that he's aching for a powerful gift, something that'll supercharge him for his adventures. Sana called her older brother, and he snapped back that she shouldn't stall, she'd been invited to that group for a reason. Then he warned her not to get her hopes up, saying his gift wasn't some lucky ticket that would magically bring in cash, and he made it clear he wouldn't be the one footing her bill either. He says Senna has grown up and towered over everyone, then tells her she'd better grind on herself if she wants to level up. Her younger sister made up her mind, she was going to become an adventurer. She kisses her older brother goodbye and insists that even if she's still young, she'll stack up a fortune so she can live it up later. Then her brother explodes in furious disbelief like, "That's all you want." The young man whispers, heart heavy, that he never imagined he'd start missing his sister, then admits he's still drowning in depression and can't stop envying Senna's gift. Gio is stuck in his thoughts, trying to figure out what his gift can do, and whether he really understands what it means to have a garden at home. The hero blurts that he doesn't tend a garden at all, then rages that the gift is useless since he doesn't even have one, while the system's voice cuts in. "So, want to set aside a space for a garden." A young man spots the earth bulging in just one spot, whips his head around in disbelief, and blurts out that it must be some corner where the ground has risen. The system voice comes back and asks the boy again if he wants this spot turned into a garden. Panic hits him. He swears the voices in his head are back, and then he nods, agreeing. The system voice blurted out that this spot was meant to become a garden, then the ground around him shifted like magic, turning perfectly fit for planting. The young man froze in shock and demanded, "What is this?" Gio lands on the ground, feels the earth turn soft, and says it's perfect for planting. Then a system window flashes right in front of him. A system window pops up and spills details about its garden. GeoCity, Level 1, a 50 by 50 plot, 0 skills, and then the voice kicks in. "Start growing something." The boy stares at a garden list of crops: wheat, potatoes, tomatoes, garlic, cucumbers, barley, carrots, eggplants, Chinese cabbage, turnips, pumpkins, lettuce, and green peppers, everything listed as medium quality. Gio gasps, shocked, and asks if he really gets to pick the crops he wants to plant in his own garden. A young man decides to grow potatoes on the spot, shrugs like it's no big deal, and asks, "Can I tag it with this symbol?" The system asks if he wants to grow potatoes and Gio blurts out yes. Then it demands a quantity and he snaps 150. After that, the voice pushes for the planting spot and he points to the far end and confirms it with a firm nod. The system voice blares that he's started growing potatoes. Then the hero snaps in because he can't even manage to plant the seeds. A young guy doesn't buy that veggies can grow that easily, he doubts it hard, then flips and insists it's true, and that belief suddenly makes planting them feel way more doable. The hero also snaps that it costs nothing, just plant a different crop in each cell, 1 seed per spot, and Gio lays it out like this. If you've got 50 cells, you can grow 10 veggie types with 5 cells each. The hero gets a gift to help him plant the vegetables he picked. Then he has to keep running back again and again to check how the garden is really doing. Gio's jaw drops as he stares in disbelief. His garden turns into a lush, luxurious vegetable patch in just 1 wild hour. He blurts out, "So it's really that easy," and wonders if it's his gift, and the hero says an ordinary farmer would need months, while Gio can't believe his eyes at all the fresh, mouth-watering veggies growing right there. A young guy doubts it will be a nightmare to pull off. A cold system voice asks, "So are we gathering or not?" And the main character panics because the woman seems to be reading his thoughts. Gio nods and agrees to the collection. The young man stares in total shock. And then the system's voice kicks off the gathering, showing just how fast and effortless the whole thing really is. The hero's eyes go wide as veggies suddenly burst up from the dirt, and he blurts out, stunned, that they're gathering themselves. Gio watches eyes light up. Right in front of him sit huge baskets packed with fresh, overflowing veggies. Tomatoes, potatoes, cabbage, carrots, eggplants, and more, all piled high like a feast waiting to be taken. A young man spirals over that voice in his head, remembers how the land got plowed in an instant, wonders what those mysterious level and skill symbols even mean, and then realizes the crops are shooting up at insane speed with no seeds ever planted. The hero can't stop staring at the weird, impossible stuff that keeps piling up, like vegetables that somehow gather themselves. And before he can even process it, he realizes the basket is already there. Gio's mind is racing with one burning thought he can't shake. He stops in shock, realizes everything around him is way too convenient, and a big grin spreads across his face as satisfaction and joy hit hard. The boy can't stop thinking, can I actually eat veggies? Then he clocks the tomatoes and realizes they look like regular, juicy, totally delicious food. A young guy takes a bite of a tomato and suddenly his face lights up because it tastes insanely good. He peels back the mystery and says the flesh is thick, packed with jelly-like bits, then points at the tomato like, sweet as fruit, but it still hits you with the perfect bite. The main character declares he'll gobble them all up, then freezes in shock when he realizes every single tomato is the exact same quality. Gio's eyes go wide, she can't believe it, and she blurts, "This is incredible." Then she leans in and wonders if it's not just tomatoes but other veggies too that could be just as amazing. Meanwhile, we cut to three girls, Senna and her friends, grabbing the spotlight. Senna stared at the breathtaking meadows and then froze, realizing she'd never left the city in her whole life. The boss jabs a finger at Lord Arsal's dungeon and declares it a brutal labyrinth crawling with demons, where you can snatch rare, valuable materials fast and get rich if you dare to run in. And he tells Senna he's basically a rookie, but once he starts battling monsters, he'll adapt, then points out he's never even held a sword before and demands he practice, and Senna shoots back confident, "I'll try." She whips out the sword she bought yesterday, brags about how it held up in a fight with a gremlin, then laughs that it's actually not bad, plus, if Shinsen gets a sword as a gift, she'll level up fast. The girls lock eyes with the demon, and shock hits them like a wave. A wicked creature with razor-long claws on its hands and feet, and sharp, pointed ears lunges out of the grass. The girls spot a goblin, and one blurts out how many more there are. Annie shoots back, calm and confident. "Don't freak out, it's just one, and it's exactly what they need to kick off their next adventure." And he snaps at Senna to get to work and prep, and Senna's stunned, because just moments ago, Annie dropped so fast that Senna never even got a glimpse of the sword. The girl bursts into joyful laughter, calls it truly wonderful and thanks it, because now she'll finally be able to handle the goblin. The girls huddle in panic, swearing that being alone is pure danger, but the Senate cuts in like, "Don't worry, there's nothing to fear." She's convinced she's got the perfect game plan to beat her opponent. A goblin hurled a razor-sharp stone, then the girls gasped because it wasn't random at all. He just aimed his own gear straight at Senna. The blade drags a gritty line of stone, and the goblin's eyes widen, shock crashing into raw fear. Santa storms in, slams the goblin, and comes out on top. Two girls beside her stared in shock, terror gripping them hard. Senna bursts into joyful laughter and shouts that we did it, that this right here is a win. Annie and Shifa are left completely stunned. They watch Senna stand her ground and beat the monster solo, then saw how her strength hit like lightning and her sharp eyes snapped onto every move, letting her slash those thrown stones out of the air, all while her fearless spirit carried her through even when the enemy was a demon. And the biggest reason fear never stood a chance, she could swing that sword like it was made to end fights. People are whispering about a fresh new talent, and they're putting him on display right at home. A young guy is cooking in a pot when he suddenly hears a voice say someone's inside the house. He leans in to greet his sister and tells her he's ready for whatever comes next, then fires off a question about how her first adventure went. She grins and says it was a blast, then casually drops the bomb that she battled a demon. The older brother snaps into surprise and confusion, then blurts, "Are you okay? Tell me you're not hurt." She blurts that he's been wrecked with worry over her, then adds the sisters were right there, while the demons were weak, so she swung her sword for the very first time and she actually loved it. The young man clocks it and mutters that maybe it's the gift fueling her, because he can't help but feel jealous. The hero tells her this is the prize for their first win, then hands her a steaming bowl of stew. Today he grabbed veggies fresh from the garden, convinced this would finally cut down his food spending, even if there's barely any meat left. Someone else swooped in with "good meal," and her brother stared at the shocked Senna, demanding to know what on earth just happened. My sister beams and gushes that the food is absolutely delicious. She beams with pure joy, practically gushing over how insanely delicious every single vegetable tastes. His older brother clocks that something's off the moment today starts, and the girl beside him nods, saying the stew tastes downright unusual. Then he takes a bite and instantly goes, "Wow, that's crazy good." Santa bursts out, bragging that they're loaded, and that she's never bitten into veggies this sweet and delicious. The young man shoots back that these vegetables are on a whole different level compared to what he's tasted before. Sister beams and says every bite is delicious because there's just so much here, while her brother nods in relief, glad she's truly satisfied. The girl asks where he got those products. He flips it back and asks if she wants him to spill everything. Then the main character starts telling the story, but Senna cuts in, demands more, and in that moment he realizes it was a painfully short-sighted move. The sister beams and admits she totally ate too much, and then the boy waves Senna over for a minute to spill what's going on. The girl gasps when she spots a real garden tucked in the backyard, and the boy grins as he shows off the veggies they ate today, freshly harvested right here. Senna can't stop thinking this might be his big break. Then his brother nods and says it could even cut down the food costs. Her eyes light up with pure joy as she blurts out, "This is so good, I could eat it every single day." A young guy can't stop dreaming about one perfect gift, something that's about to fuel his adventures and finally make him feel truly happy. He also gushes that the garden looks absolutely stunning and that he's eaten a ton, while the girl can't even wait, already drooling at the very thought of it. The heroes suddenly spot a stone lying nearby because it just came crashing down. The girl blurted out that this was a magical stone she stumbled on during today's adventure, and the system voice snapped, "Do you want to use it?" The boy asks his sister if the magical stone is frozen magic. She nods, and then she turns to Senna like, "Can you take it?" Senna agrees and immediately asks what he's planning to do with it. The main character flicks a stone down to the ground, and right then the system's voice cuts in, "You used a magical stone." The boy can't help but wonder what power shows up next, staring at this wild talent like it's blowing his mind, shocked that he never once imagined it could be this incredible. A young guy spots it. This tree isn't just growing branches, it's packed with meat. The hero tells everyone his power isn't magic spells. It's a vegetable garden that lets him forge fresh fields and rake in mouthwatering crops. Gos also convinced that once the magic stone was used, a tree that grew meat shot up right out of the ground. The heroes are locked in a dungeon near Arsault, and things are about to go down. The girl gasps that she's worn out after battling countless demons. The moment the fight wraps up fast, the data says the opponents don't stand a chance anymore. And Shifa tells Senna that if she's ready to get serious with her research, then everything's going to be okay. Senna bursts into laughter and declares that the tiny stone she found is a souvenir for her brother. Annie scoffs, saying it's hardly worth anything. But Senna refuses to let it go and pockets it anyway for him. Shifa asks how his brother's doing, then admits that on the day of the descent, everything went blurry and he couldn't see well. He says Gio dreams of traveling, but his power won't work out there, so the boss panics and Senna steps in like, "Don't worry, everything's fine, he's staying home." She beams and calls her brother an amazing person, then swears that with his talent, he'll take over the whole world. Gio's eyes widen with panic when he hears Shifa could show up at their place. And then the sister drops that Annie might come too, so the main character snaps that they've got to clean the house before anyone arrives. He's convinced Shifa hasn't come near him in ages, and he declares, straight from the heart, that he's going to make her happy no matter what. The main character starts doubting everything when he realizes her face never changes, and he can't read a single emotion. Then he goes, "Shifa's always calm and sweet, she laughs way less than Annie," and the fear hits him hard. He's terrified he'll disappoint her. Santa promises that her sisters are coming soon, just to get a look at that garden. The hero's mind races about what they'll do when he shows them those products, and the girl snaps back with a confident grin that the garden stuff is going to taste amazing, while her sister beams and adds that she always loves what she eats, so Gio's pretty sure Shifa will be happy too. The boy vowed to level up the garden, so the guests' expectations would be blown away. He realizes this garden isn't normal at all, and Santa urges him to use magical stones. The hero finally confesses he's been itching to upgrade his garden for ages, then he stares down the system panel, pulling up Gio's stats. Level 2-8 vegetable area packed at 100/100s. And still somehow he has 0 skills. He swears the garden's rising because magical stones are pushing it up, and he even promises you can widen the whole place, then cram in more crops to grow. The system voice blares, "You can grow meat in your own garden now." And he can't help himself, he starts trying to level the whole patch up, even though he has 0 clue how any of it's supposed to work. A voice cuts in and asks how much magical stone Gio should spend next. Gio snaps back that he needs to use every last piece, and his sister can't help but wonder who in the world he's talking to. The system voice blares that the magical stones are being drained, and the heroes spot them vanishing in real time. Then they shout that they've leveled up to 3. They say you can finally stretch the garden and plant brand new crops, so the boy wastes no time and pushes to go check it out. The hero stares like Burdock Perilla Batet, never heard of them, and fires the question at Senna, but she just shakes her head and says she knows nothing about any of those names. The girl asks if this exotic food, and her eyes light up as she hopes they can pull it off and gather it. In the garden, the hero and the girl spot brand new crops and he beams like, "We really expanded." While the boy thinks aloud that it might be sweet potato or one of its cousins and the sisters eagerly push, "Let's try the new harvest." What? The brother leans in and tells him, making steamed potatoes comes down to picking the right ingredients. The heroes finally take a bite of that brand new sweet potato and they both light up. Every taste is sweet, the texture is spot on, and it's way more delicious than either of them expected. Gio took one bite and swore this sweet potato feels more like dessert than any boring veggie. And yeah, he's right, it can totally be served as a dessert. The girl blurts out that her brother's gift is insane, and that if she taps into the magic stone, she can do even more. So she wastes no time, heads out to grab something new and keeps experimenting. The hero bursts into joyful cheers, shouting that his gardening level has skyrocketed and that he's unlocked brand new skills. The girls show up to apologize for the trouble, begging her not to think they're bothering anyone. The boy beams and ushers Shifa inside, saying he's always thrilled to see guests, and Shifa's sister giggles back, assuring her that everything's completely fine. The hero blurts an apology because he didn't notice Annie until it was too late. And he tells everyone, Senna said my garden is gorgeous, and she just came over to see it with her own eyes. The boss nods, Gio speaks up, and explains his sister's blowing it way out of proportion. He didn't go anywhere near that far. And he can't wrap her head around it. How on earth could one simple garden become that successful? The heroes step into a garden, and bam, it's a lush vegetable patch, so perfectly tended and bursting with life that they can't help but stare in shock. The girls wander through the garden, staring in awe as plants of every kind shoot up. Fresh veggies, juicy fruits, and even mushrooms. Everything thriving and healthy as if the place were thriving on magic. People say a beautiful fence stands here now, but just think, this garden used to be way more rundown. Senna jolts when she spots the fence, and the hero grins and admits it's his handiwork. At level 5, he mastered fence building, so he can snap up a protective barrier around the garden the second he needs to. And he admits she totally underestimated him, then blurts that she never imagined anyone could make a fence so gorgeous. And she can't believe she's seeing crops like these for the very first time. The hero spots Annie flashing a fresh laugh in the garden, and now he's baffled. Why is she so hooked on his success? He clocks how Shifa always acts like she doesn't care, and it bugs him so much he finally leans in and demands she tell him what she really thinks. Shifa gushes that it was so beautiful it stunned her, but the hero shoots back like, maybe you just wanted to be polite, Shifa. The main character pitches trying the garden harvest, and the girls instantly go, yeah, let's do it. Gio jabs a finger at a tree and declares that meat is growing on it, and the girls' faces snap to surprise and full-on shock at this insane sight. They swore they had no proof at all, but then they blinked and admitted, yeah, there really was meat on that tree, and the young man even confessed he was shocked at first too. Annie's jaw drops when she spots meat hanging on the trees, so weird it feels impossible, until the hero steps in and explains it's happening because of his gift. He brags that the food from his garden tastes amazing, swings into action to start gathering it. Then the meat suddenly squirms and moves, shocking everyone on the spot. And then it clicks, our hero has this magic meat basket, and the meat literally hops in on its own, so the hero grins because it's the most convenient thing ever. The girl's eyes go wide in the garden, stunned by what she's seeing. She blurts that it's not about convenience at all, because the meat is literally jumping, and that's when it hits her how insane this is. The heroes spot that the meat looks fresh and mouthwatering. Gio grins and pitches a barbecue for tonight. Everyone cheers, and Annie immediately asks if it's actually safe to eat. Shifa goes, I'm eating that meat, then boldly claims it's made of wood. She shrugs it off and tells you it's nothing, just a gift from Gio, so you've got nothing to worry about. The heroes huddle up to plan the barbecue. One girl jumps in to cut the meat, another volunteers to cook, and Annie gets stuck with the vegetables. The man strides up and declares everything's ready, tells everyone to dig in, and then insists Senna take the very first bite. Gio hands Shiffy a bite of the just-cooked meat and yells, careful, it's still blistering hot. Shiffy's worried, and the girl beside her squints and questions whether she really made the right choice. The main character's gut twists with dread, because he has no idea how Shifa will react when the meat hits the table. Shifasi's meat is downright delicious, like the kind of bite that makes you stop mid-chew. The boy lit up when she said she liked it, then leaned in and asked, come on, does it really taste that good? The hero grins and says he's glad she liked it, and Sheva fires back that she's never tasted meat so good, while Senna leans in and tells Annie to try it right now. The girl swears the meat is outrageously tender and has this amazing melt-in-your-mouth texture. She's practically buzzing as she raves about meat, especially beef and pork, growing right on trees, then declares veggies and mushrooms taste incredible too, like she could munch every single thing on the table without stopping. Gio hands out sweet potato pie for dessert, and it's the kind of treat that makes everyone pause and smile. The boy proudly holds up a sweet potato he grew in their own garden, and Annie gasps like she's never seen a thing like it before. Then the chef presses, asking if it's really homegrown, and the hero nods and confirms it. The girls take a bite and their eyes light up as they go, it's seriously tasty. And he blurts out that she's never had anything like this, and the chef leans in like it's magic. He can't stop staring at the sweet pie because it tastes just like honey. The girls beg for one more slice of pie, and the hero instantly clocks that they've got a serious sweet tooth. Senna nods and admits her brother's gift is the real deal, and the girls light up with big smiles, thrilled to see the garden turned out so well. The hero looks around and spots a whole treasure trove of mouthwatering goodies growing right in his garden. Shafa leans in and tells Gio that God handed him a breathtaking gift. She's totally captivated, and she can't help but marvel at how rare and unique his abilities truly are. When he spots Shifa grinning at last, joy hits him hard. Then he can't even bring himself to believe she's smiling at him, insisting it's all for her, not for him. Startled by all the attention, the girl blurts that she's not even sure this is meant for her, and the boy quickly insists he didn't mean it that way. He just says there's still food to go around, though he's not sure he can keep everyone entertained. He keeps believing it's his gift that made them happy, seeing the shell like a grin carved into the world. Yet he can't even imagine whether any of it would have happened without that power. Ani says the food is insanely delicious, but there's no way one person can finish it, because even the hero points out that Senna loves to chow down, yet she still can't eat everything the garden produces. He blurts out that his harvest is exploding in size and coming in fast, and Annie immediately asks if any of what he's growing from his garden can be used to feed the restaurant. The heroes nearly choked on their surprise when they realized the restaurant was what everyone had been talking about. Even while everyone's supposed to be eating, the hero clocks a massive line jammed in front of the restaurant, and just can't wrap his head around how insanely popular this place must be. The waitress flashes a bright smile at the crowd, beckons the next guest inside, and welcomes everyone with such warm energy that the whole place instantly feels friendly and alive. He clocks it instantly, most of the visitors are men. A waitress strides up to a young man and sweeps him an invitation. Come grab lunch at their restaurant. He claims there's a business meeting happening here, but he's got zero interest in it. He couldn't believe it. There was a brand new restaurant just across the street from Annie's house, and he was itching to find out everything about it. The hero and the other girl stop outside Lucas's restaurant, Annie's parents' place, and stare at it like a ghost town, because it used to be packed but now it's abandoned, and the hero blurts out, "Is it still open?" And he blurts out that a fresh competitor just showed up, and they've wiped out every single one of their clients. The girl clenches her hands and says she used to come here with Senna, and she can't stop missing how this place used to be. Gio finally finds out his dad's been gone for ages, and that Annie keeps disappearing too, while the real reason hits him. Her sister is juggling everything to keep the restaurant afloat. The hero clocks how Annie's sister, Alicia, stays steady, kind on the outside, strong in every move. Then Alicia finally steps in, rushes to them, and apologizes for keeping them waiting. She lights up the moment she meets the heroes at the restaurant, completely thrilled to see them. The heroes' faces went wide with pure shock. Sister spots Annie and Gio in the room, and the guy stares at them like he's lost. Then Alicia snaps, asking Gio if he saw anything. The girl tells her that the restaurant next door is bleeding money, and the only way to survive is to look irresistible. Then Annie admits it makes her heart sink. Alicia blurts out that this new event is so weird it throws everyone else into pure confusion. They slam the plan as doomed, sound crushed, and shut down the whole conversation. The girl grins and tells Annie to dress to stun and make a real impression. But Annie just freezes, utterly baffled, and blurts out that she has no idea what they're even talking about. Another girl tells her sister, "Everything's fine, you'll totally turn heads." But Annie shuts that down hard, flat out refusing and saying she doesn't want to do it. And he repeats it all again, praying the hero doesn't fully grasp what's going on, because right now he's completely lost, like he has no idea what they're even talking about. The girl blurts out that her sister is off traveling, and now she's stuck holding down the restaurant. And he tells her sister, "I'll back you 100%, this restaurant means everything to you." Then she adds, "Just make sure the spotlight stays on the food." The hero spots it right away. There's no special menu here, just a plain, simple setup staring back at him. Alicia snaps that if they keep going the way they are, the restaurant they inherited from their father could bleed money fast and end up shutting its doors for good. Joe can't believe how furious Alicia is. Then she snaps back that it matters for both sisters. The hero whips around to the girls and tells them, "I'm here because Annie asked me to." He tells everyone he's praying his gift can save the restaurant, then lays out how long he's been thinking, trying to figure out exactly how his abilities can fix the problem. He brags about the huge haul he picked himself from his garden, then insists every single bite is so delicious it'll blow your mind. Alicia blurts out that she's never seen products like this, praising how fresh and top-tier everything is, while the young man proudly holds up the roots and leaves for proof. When the hero holds up the rice, everyone freezes. "We've heard of it," they gasp, "but we've never laid eyes on it. It's so rare in their country that it feels like a myth." Alicia tells Annie that this kind of rice is insanely rare and usually gets shipped in from other countries. Then Annie goes, "I've seen rice like this at the market before." She's blown away. Rice like that is usually brown. But the hero pulls out polished grains that gleam white and shiny and tells her that even in a normal harvest, they already came out like that. The sister stared at the garden in awe and asked how they pulled off getting so many ingredients. Then Annie grinned and said, "Even meat grows on trees," and everyone nearby went, "Wait, what?" She grabs Alice and dares her to cook a dish with those exact ingredients. She blurts out that she refuses to let him be forced into humiliating work. She thanks her for the ingredients, then dives straight into cooking something mouthwatering, showing with her own hands exactly how it's made. Admitting she never usually displays her skills, but tonight she's making a one-time exception. Annie grins and tells everyone she found a cookbook in her dad's room packed with instructions for cooking rice. And her sister practically cheers as she thanks Annie for the recipe that'll finally help her get it right. The girl cracks open the book and jumps straight into the instructions, tossing in dill, animal body parts, and a staggering pile of 25 potatoes. Then she hits a wall when a few steps scream impossible, especially the magic, but she and everyone else decide they'll try anyway. Alicia yells to drown the pot with tons of water and stir the rice to keep things moving, then deadpans that the rice is already gone, leaving her sister staring in shock, while the guy calmly claims he already hauled in fresh rice. The heroes catch a mouth-watering whiff of rice simmering in the air. In the crowd, people swear the line's crawling, so they start doubting they're really in it. Then they pester the guy to wait just a little. The girl beams at the visitors, warmly welcomes them right at the entrance of the Lucas restaurant, and urges them to grab a snack inside. She grabs the moment and tells them, "Good news, there's a brand new menu." Gio snaps, asking what's wrong with her outfit, and Annie blurts that she cooked up a special look just for her sister. While the client swears he doesn't remember a restaurant ever being here, yet he still can't get over their waitress, and the place smells insanely good. They crowd around the menu, asking if they can place an order, and the girl shoots back, "Of course, go ahead and pick your dishes." The waiter slaps the ordered dishes onto the table and thanks everyone for the wait, and the guests stare at the food in front of them, wide-eyed, amazed, and practically in awe. A young man points out what's on the table: perilla leaves stuffed with meat and burdock root, potato salad, a big pot of thick veggie soup, and hot boiled rice, and the waiter grins, calling it their special set lunch. He freezes when he spots that bizarre ingredient on the menu, and blurts out that he's never seen rice in his life. The heroes stare in disbelief at the rice, because only a place this ordinary would dare serve something that rare, and they can't stop wondering what it tastes like. Gio's convinced everyone's going to love it, because the crew slaved over every bite, and every ingredient in these dishes comes straight from his own garden. The guests dig in, and one of them blurts out that the food tastes insanely delicious, while another marvels that the rice is so soft and fluffy it practically melts. They dig into the food and can't stop smiling. This guy even claims that the more rice he piles onto his plate, the tastier it gets, and another customer chimes in that the salad and soup are absolutely delicious, then throws in that the meat tastes just as amazing too. The hero grins, saying the perilla leaves bring a burst of fresh kick, while the burdock delivers this satisfying, pleasant chew. Alicia and Gio soak up the praise from a delighted customer, then he casually drops a shocking twist: they don't have rice. And he scoops out a steaming portion of rice and serves it to their guest. The girl tells them they can shovel down as much rice as they want, and the others are left totally stunned. Other visitors crowd in too, grilling the staff about open seats, then staring in disbelief at the food, because they've never tasted anything like this in their life. Alicia leans in and asks Gio if she can steal a bite from his plate, and he nods without a second thought. Then Gio clocks it. She's grinning like crazy, even though she's still working at the restaurant. The heroes keep digging into the food, trading excited comments about how perfect every ingredient tastes, and wondering where in the world they can possibly get rare, delicious stuff like this. The waiter suddenly panicked and the customers snapped, "What's going on?" The first one quickly calmed everyone down, insisting it wasn't anything serious. Clients spot those gorgeous girls across the street and laugh that the space problem is basically solved. Then they start showing up every week because the food is ridiculously good. Guests rave about the food at Luca's, and everyone says the owner is just the sweetest. Alicia beams and thanks the hero for his help and support, thrilled with the win, telling him she can't even remember the last time they'd had this many guests. The young man says he'll keep cooking with garden-fresh stuff if they want. The restaurant owner swears he'll pay big, and the young man shuts him down, no money, just the food. She straight up insists, as the owner of the place, she can't take food for free, not even from friends. The girl gushes that this kind of deliciousness is worth double the market price, but Gio cuts in, telling her she's got a ton more work left to do. The hero tells them, "We'll keep this place open no matter what, and then I promise happiness," and he pushes for the market price, saying they'll talk it over again once they can actually pay it. Alicia practically buzzes with excitement. She leans in and asks Gio what he really thinks of his sister, and he shoots back that she's a good girl. The girl asks the hero to walk with her and her sister, and suddenly he's all awkward and unsure what to do. Annie's sister pops in to greet her, then immediately pleads for everyone to stop teasing the hero, because he might not catch the joke at all. The boy snaps that he gets the hints, yet he's still reeling when Alicia casually says she's leaving everything exactly as it is. She adds that if her sister hesitates, she'll grab Gio for herself. Annie's eyes widen in confusion as her sister mumbles something she can't even understand. Then Alicia declares she's heading off to get ready for tomorrow. She promises she'll fight tooth and nail to make the Lucas restaurant thrive and prosper. The hero lets out a breath of relief when Alicia is finally okay again, and Annie admits she was terrified they'd already lost control. While the guy can't stop staring, shocked that it all flipped to success so fast. The girl warns, don't you dare misuse that gift, use it right or it'll turn on you. She warns that the kidnappers could chain them to non-stop labor making goods, so she urges everyone to stay sharp. The hero racked his brain over why she stopped him last time, then leaned in and asked if she's worried about him. The girl shoots back that she never wanted anything bad to happen to the restaurant. He knows that when things get brutal, you've got to talk to someone, and he's relieved he trusts Anna and the rest of them. She tells him, this time you didn't just help, you saved my life for real, and she admits she could never have returned the favor the way he did. Gio points out that they've been tied together since childhood, and she's convinced he's a good person, just a little too naive for his own good. The hero blurts out, did you eat something weird? She grins and says she snacked straight from the tree, and he's stunned by how deeply she thanks him, so he convinces himself it's all because of the gift he gave. He's grinning from ear to ear, and he says that today, tons of people are finally reaping the fruits of his gift. Gio can't stop thinking about how his gift could get twisted, and he fully understands the danger that comes with it. The girl in the cap flashes back to her last trip to that restaurant, back when the hottest table was right across the road. The heroine can't stop staring at how the Lucas restaurant is thriving, and she's determined to uncover the secret behind how they pulled off that crazy success. The boy blurts that it's happened again. His sister snaps, what happened? And he urges her to come take a look right now. A young guy spots the real culprit, crows, and starts grumbling nonstop about how these birds keep ruining everything. The sister urges them to wipe out the crows, insisting they're no threat at all to adventurers. The girl can't stop wondering why the crows never fly to them. Then the young man realizes they always show up whenever he's around. Her brother swears the crows can sense her and fear her instinctively, but Senna snaps that they don't take him seriously at all. She's stuck between a life on the road and guarding the garden, while her brother insists he just wants to stay put, then flips the script and declares it's time to launch into an adventure. Senna thanks for shooing the birds away for a bit. Still, he admits the fence won't stop them, and the constant guarding of the harvest is making him feel miserable. The hero grinds up magical stones to level himself, betting everything that they'll carry him, and the moment they hit, his level shoots straight up to 10. After he levels up, the hero suddenly unlocks fresh powers, and he's stunned to see the garden expand like it's alive. Someone slammed on the door and Gio decides to handle it later, asking who is it. Liliali Ruka strode forward, introduced herself as a merchant, and beamed at the heroes like a welcome gift. He clocked how tiny she was and couldn't help wondering if she really belonged to the little Pusian race. Gio leans in and tells her, tell me what you need, I'll help with it all. The girl says Lucas's restaurant blew up thanks to its insanely delicious food, and she totally agrees, then admits she was shocked by how good those dishes were. She couldn't stand it, so she followed the restaurant, desperate to uncover where they were getting ingredients that good. Lyric bursts into laughter and says, that's exactly why I ended up here. Then adds that from the outside, the house looks totally ordinary, yet somehow it's the source of ingredients this incredible. The hero's totally baffled. He can't figure out what that girl wants from him, and he blurts out, wait, what's going on around here? The girl suspects that all of this might be leading to a gift. He clings to Annie's warning, keep this strange power secret and let as few people as possible know so nobody ever gets the chance to abuse it. The little girl giggles and blurts that the hero tried to hoodwink her, then she smirks, saying he's so naive that every single thought practically screams on his face. The girl declares the apple is delicious, then eagerly offers her help. Lurica tells him the orders won't just go to the Lucas restaurant, they'll hit other cafes and stores too. Then she asks if he's in, and the man immediately says, yes, I'm absolutely interested. The girl with the cap clocks that the hero's the type who pays close attention, then she tells him straight, hobbits don't lie by nature and they always trade fair. The Jew freezes in shock, he's never heard of these cunning hobbits, yet admits they're weirdly brilliant and totally peaceful, and the girl immediately tells him, if the hero's uneasy, we can seal it with a magical contract. She explains that magical contracts don't just seal deals, they guard the agreement and keep trade secrets locked up tight. The girl pipes up that the contract should lock down one rule, no spilling magical secrets, so they agree to it, then dive into every last detail. The hero's convinced the Lucas restaurant's visitors loved her wares, and now he's itching to wow even more people with her products. He flat out admits trading isn't his thing, but he still uses it to line up deals with seasoned traders. The main character shoots back, I'll sign, and the girl's face lights up as she thanks him like it just saved her world. Lararchy's like, a magical contract is live now, And Gio's immediately like, cool, then I'm showing you my garden. The young man points out a wild tree where veggies, fruits, and mushrooms sprout like magic, and the girl's jaw drops as she blurts, what is that? Gio tells everyone there's no point in planting seeds. Because everything shoots up in an hour, you can harvest the moment it's ready, and then grow any species or variety you want right away. The hero adds that it can make products taste fresh, or even turn them sweet. The girl flat out says it's almost impossible to wrap her head around a miracle like that. She snaps that no quality goods like that exist in the market, and he's stunned, because he's heard something totally different. The boy's gut screams that something's off, but the girl beams and insists everything's absolutely perfect. He tells you that lately new kinds of products have been popping up everywhere, like fish. The hero looks around and realizes fish don't grow on trees. And then he drops the line that they're multiplying like mushrooms in a garden. The girl says you don't see something like this every day, and the little one chimes in that fish looks totally natural. Gio then snaps the truth she has no clue how to cook it, and she doesn't even know how to dry or smoke it. Liruki drags the hero into a plan to cook fish together. Also, they can celebrate their newfound acquaintance. She tells him she used to work with fishermen, so she swears she knows exactly how to cook fish. Then she points out, this one's mackerel. The girl slices the fish into 3 neat pieces, then stops dead, stunned by how gorgeous that fillet turned out. And the hero can't help smiling, loving that he gets to work with fish this fresh. The boy asks, can I even eat raw fish? And the girl grins, urging him to try every cooking trick on the fish, because this isn't just dinner, it's a special kind of situation. Gio confesses that ripping out the bones is brutal, and Lurica fires back that salt, oil, and vegetables are just as crucial to make the dish. The hero clocks that Lurica knows her way around food, and she laughs, saying her job puts her in contact with all kinds of people. The boy jokes that it sounds super useful and totally interesting, then blurts that he'd love to travel or become an adventurer, while the girl leans in and asks how growing meat on trees could possibly help an adventurer. The main character announces the food is ready. They both clock how mouthwatering it looks, and then they dive in and take a taste. That guy calls this dish fried fish a laminier. He blinks in shock. This flavor hits soft, deep, and somehow the fish is unbelievably juicy. The hero leans in and asks Lilia what she really thinks about food. The girl says the fish is loaded with fat and tastes sweet as candy. She straight up admits she's never, ever tasted fish this delicious before. Gio snaps to Lilia and asks if she's really okay after she just spoke. Laruki blurts out an apology for knowing you too well, and you can practically feel how awkward he is. The hero bursts into laughter and declares that the dish turned out absolutely incredible. The girl beams and thanks the hero for the fish, swearing it was all his doing. Then the hero shoots back, nope, I didn't cook that dish, you did. And they both savor the flavor together as the girl keeps insisting over and over that it only worked because of him. She tosses it off with a wink, saying they should both back down a little, and their shared gratitude could be the spark that turns into real, fruitful teamwork. The boy insists he wants to grow even more of the same fish, because that's how he thinks we'll have to slash the land set aside for other crops. The protagonist says it'd be amazing to have a bigger plot so they can plant even more, and the girl nods like, yeah, the plot's boundaries are what keep us from growing this garden any further. The young man spots the crows tearing into him again, and irritation sparks hot in his chest. He claims the crows are perched on the farm, keeping a sharp eye on the fish. Gio tells them, today, I'm gonna show these crows exactly who runs this place. He swung that shovel and completely missed. The hero swings a shovel to scare off the crows, but they outsmart him anyway, snatching part of the harvest and vanishing into the sky. The girl blurts, Gio, are you okay? And he admits he's mostly fine, at least he managed to salvage something. The boy realizes the crows don't just circle. They fly in wild packs and strike head-on, and he vows he won't back down without a fight. The system window flashes, his garden just hit level 10 and he's unlocked a brand new skill. A voice booms, want to forge a defender, and the girl snaps back stunned, wait, who are you talking to? A brand new defender shows up and vows to guard the garden, and Gio wastes no time. He orders the guy to chase off the crows. Lyric throws him a question and he blurts out the truth. This created protector is the real piece of her gift. Crows swarm the defender for what he did, and he blasts them back with brutal force. The main character realizes the defender is insanely strong, shutting down the crows with flawless defense. He erupts with joy over the defender's victory. The girl gapes at the defender's raw strength and blurts out that he's carrying an insanely powerful gift. Gio beams and tells him everything went perfectly, then cheers him on and thanks him for all his hard work. He reassures everyone the garden is finally safe, because the defender has it covered. They're saying Laruka slipped back home to seal the deal. Reports say the money's rolling in steadily and that garden is kept safe, all thanks to the golem. The boy leans in and asks, is everything ready? The girl beams and says she snagged a plot right near his place, and she can't stop smiling because she wants to gift it to him. Laru tells them that if they expand the crop fields, the harvest will explode higher. The hero frets over every coin he splurged and starts doubting this decision is truly serious, until the girl smiles and swears that once they buy that plot, the profits will explode soon. She says this will forge deeper trust between them. The heroes lock in, refuse to stop, and keep building their future together. Gio trusts this man without a shred of doubt, and together they dive straight into plans to demolish that abandoned house. The system's voice snaps, do we open the plot now, convert this land, and do we need a new fence? And the main character fires back, confirming every single bit. In the blink of an eye, the whole house vanishes, opening up fresh space for new plantings, and Lyric's jaw drops in pure disbelief. A young man gapes at the sheer size of the new space, and the hero grins and says, now we can use all this land to grow crops by the truckload. Luryuk hands over the money and Gio's jaw drops, there's a ton of it, so he quickly decides to stash it away from Senna. The girl's jaw drops when she lays eyes on that massive vegetable garden. The hero grins as he realizes this whole land is his, and now he can grow even more plants than ever. Sister stares in awe at a whole forest of meat trees, beef, pork, horse, and chicken hanging everywhere, then spots fish too. She exhales with a dream and says it'd be amazing to see gardens like that everywhere. And when her brother confesses he's only got 1,000 of his 25,000, the truth hits hard. There's still nowhere near enough space. Gio jumps in and offers to harvest the next crop. And boom, the system window pops open with a whole herb list he can grow, including medicinal ones. The hero leans in and asks what kind of grass this is, and the girl grins, saying it's the secret ingredient for a potion that brings health right back. She tells you that this herb used to sit in every pharmacy, but now it's gone dry, because everyone's stuck waiting for the next harvest. The main character realizes that without these herbs, the dungeons turn dangerous fast. He grins, thinking he's about to gather this grass and help Shafi. The boy took the help and now he keeps replaying that talk with Santa about a pharmacy. A young man heads straight for an abandoned pharmacy that looks ruined and forgotten, yet its doors are open, and he can't help wondering who the owner really is. Inside the pharmacy, everything feels dead quiet, dark, empty, and way too eerie. The hero sweeps the place, but there's nothing here that grabs his attention. The hero steps up and greets the man who just walked in. The boy blurted, whose pharmacy is this? And the girl leaned in, smiling. She told him she's the saleswoman and works the counter right here. A young man spots that her maid's outfit eerily matches the inside of the pharmacy. From the shadows, a girl materializes and declares that this is a special form meant for Dennis. The uniformed girl points him to Mrs. Marin, greets the hero like she's known him forever, then admits she's never seen him around here before. The boy swore he'd spotted a living corpse. Then he realized that this abandoned house fits her perfectly. Denny's pushes for a new form and Ms. Marin shuts him down fast, telling him it's not optional, it's a direct order from the manager. The hero clocks that these things fit her perfectly. Then Dennis blurts out that she can't stand this form and weirdly, that she's actually a guy. Ms. Marin drops a total surprise, denies isn't a boy at all, she insists he's a little cutie. Dennis snaps back swearing he's a real boy and the girl keeps shooting it down too. She says Denise is seriously the sweetest person around. The main character goes to leave, but someone grabs his attention and begs him to stay. A guy dressed in a maid outfit leans in and demands, has Gio come to handle business yet? The man leans in and tells him he's already snatched up the ingredients for a healing potion, and now he's ready to sell them. Dennis steps in and assures everyone it's the real deal, and the girl can't help but praise how fresh and full of life the hero feels. She claims this AIMA can whip up a top-tier potion that brings your health roaring back. The uniformed guy breaks it down. Potions can range from fixing tiny scrapes to battling serious injuries, and the higher the class, the steeper the price. Dennis watches as Miss Marin sizes up a potion at a glance, and somehow instantly knows if it's pure or garbage, thanks to her freaky gift. The girl blurts out, shocked, she's never seen leaves this huge. Then she can't help but rave about how amazing their quality and size are. The pharmacy assistant shrugs and says, this year's weather killed the apple harvest, no increase, not even a little. Ms. Marin's eyes turned terrifying. She hated that the boy was praising the guest. The hero says his sister, Santa, is a wanderer. Denny's shoots back that she always shows up at their place with Shefa. Gio tells them he'll cut the price, but they've got one condition. Every last one of those elixirs has to be sold only to his sister. The girl nods in agreement, says Shefa's squad are basically their usual customers, then drops the real twist. She's got a condition of her own. She blurts out that Denny's is hers alone, and she's got every right to claim him. The hero lights up when he realizes Shifa's health potion is coming back again. The uniformed man says the target's quality is insanely high, then tells them it's worth begging Gio to bring in even more raw materials. Mrs. Maring nods and says this is absurdly *high quality. Then she leans in and asks the hero where he found an eye so perfect. The girl spots it, her healing potion is finally ready. She suspects that this potion just got a new edge, like it's capable of something it never could before. Marin tells them, "I'm not that easy to trick," then decides the potion has to be watered down. Her face lights up. She says she snagged a bunch of medicinal herbs and quickly asks if he brought the medicinal plants to the pharmacy. She tells everyone that Shifa asked her to pass along her thanks, and then she reveals she's heading out on a long, brutal expedition. Brother snaps that he's stirring trouble for Shifa again, and the sister fires back that Shifa is an incredible warrior, impossible to replace in those dungeons. The girls spot a massive monster looming up ahead. Shifa promises he'll back it all up. The girls break into cheers because everything finally gets sorted, and Annie can't believe how effortlessly Senna wipes away that bloody grizzly. Sina credits their victory to everyone's support. Annie's hunting magic warns her of living beings before they even arrive, and Shifa's Empress-level prestige rallies allies hard and crushes opponents where they stand. Ani claims it's all her sword skills, God's favor, and his sharp grasp of what's going on. Then the girls realize they're tearing through the dungeon and sinking deeper in at a breakneck pace. Senna tells everyone it's all because of her brother. Without his potion, descending would be downright dangerous. She says Gio looked a little lost when she thanked him. And it hits him 2 weak figures are up ahead, and he bets at least one of them's hurt. The girls burst into the dungeon, spot the wounded, and vow to help them right then and there. He can't believe his eyes when he spots his injured comrades, and the moment he sees the damage, he knows these injuries are dead serious. Senna hands you a healing elixir and begs you to take it. The girls shout that someone's lurking right behind her. The heroes lock eyes with the monster's friends standing right in front of them, the same ones they just crushed. They tell Senna to step in and cover for them while they patch up the wounded. She just smirks and thinks, "That one? Easy." And he warns that more monsters are about to spill in here any moment. Shifa starts plotting reinforcements, and Senna suddenly feels the world slip away as her body turns weightless. She charges headfirst into the monsters, then sprints straight to help when it matters most. Then someone spots it. This is the Shifa squad. Eliza got greeted with cheers. They talked through every wounded detail, and then right on the spot, they cracked open the potion and raced to heal them. Eliza snaps that only top-tier healing herbs will do, so she pushes everyone to grab every herb they can find to patch up the wounded, while Annie shrugs and insists first-class herbs mean they'll barely need any at all. The heroes and everyone else crowd around the wounded, staring in shock at how brutal the injuries look. Then the girl confidently says those terrible wounds will heal all the way, thanks to her potions. The wounded squad members clutch their gratitude and thank the heroes for saving them, and Eliza steps in with a bold invite. "Come on, let's move forward together." Senna and Shifa lock in their decision. They swear they're not going anywhere. Eliza swears the potion they just used is top tier, way better than any first-class potion. She demands to know where they got the elixir, and the girl blurts out that it came from Mrs. Marin's pharmacy. Marin looks back and thinks, "Back then I was a legit skilled pharmacist." The boss insists Eliza and she had an agreement, and that they're basically old acquaintances. So why does her team keep getting shuffled and changed every single time? Senna freezes in shock, realizing their potion looks totally wrong. The girl stared at the potion in awe, swore it was better than first class, and couldn't stop asking how they ever managed to make something this perfect. People are whispering that this place belongs to Gio, and that his garden holds the truth. Denny's insists that every bit of this is all because of the herbs Gio hauled in, and the hero nods like, "Yeah, I already heard that from Senna." The boy admits he's genuinely thrilled to help Shifa, and that satisfaction hits hard every time he's able to lend a hand. The young man claims he brought even more Ama. The hero quips that she's got her spying on her again, and right after that, Dennis reports that Gio brought AIMA back again. The main character hands over the herbs, and Mrs. Marin bursts with gratitude, thanking him for the amazing gift. She says it's exactly his herbs that pull in all these visitors. Gio's convinced he's growing stronger, but he still has no clue how to brew a single potion. Dennis gushes that Mrs. Marin is so sweet, and she smiles back and tells him he's cute. Marina tells the hero she's grateful for everything, and he shrugs it off, saying he didn't do anything special, then promises he'll go out and bring even more medicinal herbs. "My sister is begging me to tally up every last magical stone." The brother leans in and tells him that once the herbs paid off, he couldn't stay stuck. He went hunting for bigger chances at a higher level, and now they can push forward in a blink, while the system window flashes the proof. Stones were used. They're saying the level jumped up, a brand new fence type unlocked, and fresh skills and goods flooded in. Chiu's jaw drops when he realizes eggs can be grown now. The hero plants a mysterious egg in the ground, then watches it burst to life and grow bigger by the minute. He stares at the small magical egg and realizes it's blown up to an absolutely massive size. The boy stared at that massive egg, wondering who the heck could possibly crawl out, like maybe it's a monster. A young guy is pacing in his head, already wondering how he'll survive raising a monster the second it hatches. He swears plucking an egg off a branch is a piece of cake, but everything else gets way harder. Laruka greets the hero and, like always, announces that she's here again, bringing food. She claims she's heard about those brand new super elixirs, and then asks Gio straight up if those medicinal herbs are his. Gio answers with a clear confirmation. The girl in the cap spots his packed garden of useful plants, and the boy grins, saying he'll give growing them a shot. Then he blurts out a question about the monsters. She swears she does it and people line up for it. Then the young guy suddenly blurts out, "What about eggs?" Lyra just stares because she's never even heard the word. She insists that true living monsters barely exist, and claims they're born cruel, so they never really fit with humans. Laruka can't shake the regret of one thought that should have never been born, raising a monster and then living with it. The hero can't stop thinking about the crushing problem of incompatibility. As long as the monster stays small, he thinks he can tough it out, or stop it from hatching, so nothing nasty comes back to haunt him later. The boy clocks the egg starting to twitch and shift, and panic and shock slam into him at once. That boy shrugs off his sister being late, and even though the egg situation scares him, it still tugs at his heart and melts him. She digs in with pure delight, finishes every bite, and beams as she thanks him for the delicious food. Brother tells everyone she's got a killer appetite today, and she snaps back that, yep, she had to wrestle the monster all over again today. The boy leans in and asks how dangerous these monsters really are, and Santa snaps back with the brutal memory of how they saved the girls from a clawed monster that left them hurt, making it crystal clear just how deadly they can be. The hero doesn't hesitate. He agrees the monsters are absolutely ruthless. She leans back and thinks about the good monsters she's called friends, likens them to a golem, and then whispers that one day those monsters could even feel like family. My brother swears he's got it easy without her, because when she's home she just sits there and does nothing. He swears he's not alone anymore, then remembers how his parents died way too early and his sister keeps vanishing on another trip. The boy leans in to inspect the egg, and it squirms like it's alive. With fearless confidence, the young man declares that he'll hatch a monster from a single egg. The hero decided to start growing food right now, so the future monster would never go hungry. Gio decides to peek at the egg, and then he spots the monster inside twitching more and more often. He jerks in shock because that egg is stone cold now. The boy stared at the egg and asked himself how that monster inside was handling the sudden cold, then snapped into action and rushed to warm it up fast. A young man smothers the egg with his palm and right away he feels it. Warmth starts seeping in. The main character decides to crash for the night, but he won't let the egg go, so he tucks it right beside him and keeps caring for it as he falls asleep. Gio sprawls in bed clutching an egg and begs it to hatch fast. The egg starts to crack and the hero's mind races, scrambling for the next move. The boy fires up his confidence with encouraging words. The kitten's finally hatched and that young man can't stop thinking, "I'm weak." He's convinced he absolutely has to grab some milk. The boy spots coconuts oozing milk up in the tree and laughs, certain nothing in the world is going to stop him from drinking it. The hero soaks in that fresh air, breathing in a clean, healthy scent that perks him right up. He cracks open the milk and pours it straight for the cat. That cat lunges for the drink and gulps it down like it's starved, and Gio can't believe how fast she's draining it. He grins because the garden always comes through, everything he needs is right there, the cat gets fed just fine, and then he realizes she's way happier now. The boy beams and gushes that the cat is super cute and fluffy, then he starts having the best time playing with her. He tells her that even if she thinks she's a monster, she might end up as someone's beloved household cat, and then he starts mulling over what to name her. The man spots the cat's snowy white fur and chuckles, calling out Snowball or Iceball, as he keeps talking softly to her like she's already his. The hero tells her if you love milk, you'll turn milky. Someone called in to say they were at home, then Gio snapped, asking his sister to come to him. She demands to know what this miracle even is, and her brother hits back that she's staying with them from now on. The girl's swooning over the adorable little cat, and he keeps his mouth shut, because the truth is, it didn't just appear it hatched from an egg. The cat snapped and bit Senna, and Gio went white-hot with rage as his sister sprinted straight after it. Sana vents that her brother loves the cat more than her, swearing the little animal has stolen his heart and left her in the dust. The girl snaps furious, "That's my brother, I'm his sister." Gio's eyes flick to the truth because it's a cat. The boy yells that dinner's ready and pours out some milk, then his sister instantly reaches for it too. The girl grins and says the milk tastes wonderfully sweet. The cat purrs in pure delight, and the young man laughs that it's awesome to collect such delicious treats right from the garden. He's convinced that at this point, they finally look like a real family. Gio insists their tiny family has to hustle harder, sell more goods and grow, no excuses. The heroine grins and says, "Today it's not just a goal, I've got something new." then spots her stash of herbs, saying she has a whole collection and every single one of them is rare. Ms. Marin spots the hairy grass and freezes in awe like she's seeing it for the first time. Then the girl jumps in, saying that this stuff can be brewed into a freezing icy potion. She adds that after downing this potion, you won't flinch at fire or heat, no fear at all. And Denial snaps back that how it works depends on what's in the mix. The hero swears the icy elixir will save travelers, and Marin backs him up, especially when the dungeon throws you into those hard-to-reach spots. They swear this potion can save you in the nastiest spots, like a volcano crater. He insists it'll vanish any second, and another character jumps in, because of course they're standing right in front of a blazing volcano. The hero nods and says the dungeon is packed with multiple levels of wildly different danger. Cave floors, volcanic blasts, forest traps, ancient ruins, and even underwater depths. She also points out that every level brings its own rules and monsters, and people swear the hardest one is underwater, because nobody's beaten it yet. And he leans in and tells you the volcanic level's secret: pure, brutal heat that only a select few can survive. She promises that beating the bosses will score her legendary rewards, valuable items she can sell to make her famous, and Senna instantly gets it. They're about to take on the volcano bosses. And he blurted that she's done for the day, this heat is brutal, and since they don't have any water magic, they're absolutely wiped out. Shifa lifts a potion that looks like pure ice, crystal cold and deadly. She tells her if you drink this potion, heat and fire won't hurt you anymore. And the girl quickly adds, it's just a trial dose from Mrs. Marin. The boss tells them Marin handed over the potion for free, no strings, except one. They've got to test it. And then they marvel at how she even managed to brew something that amazing using the rare Hyari herb. The girl blurts out that Marin actually bought grass from Hio. The heroes decide to gulp the potion they got, and one of them suddenly winces. It's ice cold and it hurts just to swallow. She's stunned after downing that potion. The heat that had her sweating just vanishes in a flash. Shifa blurts that she wants to hit the volcano right now, no matter how dangerous it is. She talks about the volcano, painting a picture of the burning earth beneath it. Even with danger looming, Santa notices the potion sinks in, and it cools him down in the most refreshing, pleasant way. The heroes realized the potion was kicking in, and the heat felt just right, so they charged toward the lava with zero fear. 3 blazing fire monsters burst out ahead, and the heroes' courage instantly cracked. The girls finally clock what these monsters are: fire dogs, and their confidence skyrockets, because they fully believe they're about to be stronger than every opponent they've faced so far. Shifa watches the swords hit drain the monster's flame, like the strike steals its power. They say the effects stick around long enough that everyone's going to want it, so the price jumps, and soon other teams are begging to buy it too. Shifa shoots back with full confidence. This potion keeps them safe, and then she yells for everyone to push forward straight into the fight with the bosses. The boy blurts out, grinning from ear to ear, that today the hairy grass is going to pour in big. Then he promises he'll do whatever it takes to keep her laughing. The boy realizes there are skills he's never even tried, and he pushes to test them right now. The hero claims it's a fancy upgraded fence, and the system voice instantly pushes. So you want to build a wall? Gio confirms it. He cheers because a fence finally replaces the wall, then immediately snaps, like, no, I don't need some fence at all. The system's voice demands hide this area, and the boy immediately nods yes. He points out that skills normally hit instantly, but this time nothing happens at all. He decides to try fresh crop varieties, but once he looks closer, they're totally ordinary. No spark, no new breakthroughs. The hero spots it right away. Wheat, potatoes, and tomatoes are suddenly thriving. Their quality jumped from just okay to top tier. The boy grins, convinced these crops are about to taste even better than ever. The girl was done with that dungeon life. She was desperate to sprint back to a soft bed like right now. She can't believe it, and the shock hits her instantly. The Senate grills them, demanding answers, where they're from and where the house is. The boy shrugs, says he was just trying out new skills, then slips to a hidden spot to show the proof, only to swear off it for good, because the neighbors were probably shocked right along with everyone else. The sister admits she's wiped out so badly she even thought she'd have to sleep outside, and the brother jumps in, saying she can barely walk. Then the girl snaps that he messed everything up again by using those new herbs. She grumbles that they burned the whole day scrambling around the volcano, and the boy shoots back with a heavy sigh. He spent the day stuck sitting down, gathering herbs, while everyone else charged through the flat dungeons. The brothers push for a victory dinner to celebrate finishing the first level, and demand they get to invite the girls too. He tells everyone he'll handle dinner, and his sister lights up, saying it's crazy motivating. The heroes burst in, and there, right in front of them, the boss Red Lizard stands like he's waiting for a fight. People are whispering that this is the new boss, and yeah, he's got a name too, Volcano. Santa spots a massive dragon with iron-hard scales, an opponent so terrifying it's the strongest threat in years. Shifa's convinced they can beat him, so she pushes for a full assault, slamming into that dragon from every direction and merging all their forces into one. And he tells them to grab a little extra potion, just in case trouble comes knocking. The heroine slams the power on, Empress's prestige, and suddenly her allies grow stronger while her enemies get weaker, like the battlefield flips against them. Senna admits the opponent is seriously attractive, and everyone tells her to stay on guard. The boss spots the dragon locked onto Senna and realizes closing the distance won't be a walk in the park. She's not gonna be able to find a single thing on her own. She struts like she already knows she'll win. The boss yanks the lizard into a humiliating bow, and he beams as she tells them she actually managed to land a real hit on the dragon, and she swears the potion is insanely powerful. The girl turns to Annie and tells her, "Thanks, you really had my back," then grins because they've just proven they work like a perfect team, strong as one. The heroes choose to band together once more and unleash every last ounce of their power. The girl beams as she warmly greets Shifu, like she's been waiting for this moment. The boss greets Canaria, she shoots back, "How's it going?" And bam, she clocks a brand new girl in the squad, so the boss steps up and introduces Senna, her longtime friend. The canary can't shake the feeling that every single day, the dungeons are getting tougher and tougher. She quizzes them about what they're doing today and if they're here to drop the results. Then the heroes snap, "Fine, we'll report today." The girl's eyes go wide as she feels the massive thing in her hands, and she blurts out that it's the size of a volcano. Shufa tells everyone, "This is our report," and then they brag that they crushed the boss on the volcano. The canary bursts out shouting so it's true, and the boss nods, then the weight slams in and proves it. The receptionist girl nods and confirms it, this really is the scale of a red lizard, then drops the names of the people they teamed up with, while the heroes insist they finish the job alone, no other teams stepping in. They say the boss is still stuck there, and we've gotta go grab him, Canary's in, but she warns us the gear for crossing that volcano isn't ready yet. And he flashes a grin and says, "Don't worry, no special gear." Because she has an ice elixir and one sip lets you feel icy coolness even right at the mouth of a raging volcano. The hero stares in shock, realizing the boss volcano is finally crushed, and blurts out that he's never once heard of an elixir like this. Travelers light up, swearing the potion actually works, and it never burns a single thing. Jevofa is only 18, yet she's already a Class B fighter, and she's taken down a volcano. He stared at the volcano, utterly stunned and speechless. The man's eyes widen as he realizes the volcano's scales are barely harmed, and he's about to sell them for a fat pile of cash. A young man leans in and asks how they pull off laying the monster down so cleanly, because in his experience, monsters you drag in from battle are always mangled to hell. The hero stares in shock. Those scales are pierced by one brutal strike, and he can't wrap his mind around who could have landed a blow that strong. Someone straight up asks Shifu if that's her work, and she snaps back, "No." Then he turns to Annie and asks if she did it. Annie only shakes her head, saying she doesn't know how to wield a sword like that. A bunch of men are grilling Senna, insisting she couldn't possibly be the one, but the girl steps in and flat out proves she did it. She flashes a proud grin and declares that with one blade in her hand, she's the strongest of them all. Gio stares at a mountain of magical stones and can't believe his eyes. Then his sister cracks it. The loot depends on what level the monsters are. She says the boss is amazing, so the reward fits perfectly, and then she begs him to compliment her, right as the cat lets out a loud meow like, "Milky wants pets too." Senna demands why they're all praising that cat, and the brother blurts that it's basically therapy, like instant comfort. While the girl insists it's not right to pet her sister, then Gio tells her not to be jealous, and Milky is still just a tiny kitten. The boy's jaw drops because the cat has sprouted in a matter of days. The brother bursts with joy and declares he's going to supercharge the garden with the magical stones he just got. The system voice blares, "Level up." And suddenly new skills snap into place, fresh cultures open up, and when the hero checks his menu, copper and iron ore are finally within reach. A young man forces a smile and pretends he saw nothing. The girl leans in and tells them that starting tomorrow, she's finally taking the day off. The boy throws out the idea. Why not invite the girls to a party to celebrate their wins and all the fresh opportunities waiting for them? The heroes decide to knock back a victory-worthy feast and celebrate finishing the dungeon together. The girls gasp at the huge spread of food, and it smells ridiculously good, like they can't help but stare. Gio blurts that Alicia helped him, and Alicia grins back. Luca's cafe is open for them only today, and every single ingredient was plucked straight from Gio's garden. The girl says they can cook up as much food as they want, and then she urges them to stuff themselves without holding back. The heroes throw their heads back in pure joy, gloating over the win, and saying that the steak smells dangerously delicious. Shifa nods and says it looks downright delicious, and Senna's mouth starts watering. She can't wait to dig into that food. The boy says he whipped up a meal using brand new top-tier crops. The moment the heroes spotted the dishes laid out on the table, shock hit them like a punch. And he takes one bite and her face lights up. She says it's so delicious you could practically faint from pure joy, and then she keeps eating like she's in heaven. The chef blurts that he could chow down forever, and everyone else lights up too, cheering for seconds like it's never gonna end. Gio finally realizes new cultures are terrifying, not because they're scary, but because they spark an insane appetite for food and make pleasure feel totally unstoppable. They swear the dishes are built from plain, run-of-the-mill ingredients, but the girls still dig in and beam, because that tender meat hits perfectly with crisp, crunchy onions, and every bite stays juicy and insanely tasty. They realize those last dishes were so tasty that if some clueless people got their hands on them, they could be twisted into illegal stuff. So they decide to stash everything somewhere out of reach, way far away. Shifa thanks Gio for the sweet reward and tells her it's the very least he can do, since she's been taking care of Senna. The girl blurts out that the center forward is insanely talented. Notes on how their sister somehow got it done so fast. The boy figures, at least now I can finally do something to help my friends. He admits it, he still can't stop envying them. Shifa grabs the guy and thanks him for the ice potions that got them through the volcanic zone and crushed the boss, then adds that Gio's power is legendary too. And he blurts that he brewed healing potions for them and handled the logistics like a pro. And the sister shoots back that pushing deeper into the dungeon is brutal and getting harder. Alicia pulls him in and promises, "Don't worry, I'll handle everything from here." Gio agrees. He's convinced he can still slide back into the group. The girls gush their thanks for the amazing meal, then swear they can't take another bite, and the hero turns to Alicia grinning like, "Look at how much you all devoured, this food was seriously delicious." The boss gets asked if they'll be going again soon. She says they take breaks sometimes, and Annie goes, "I might be able to help at the restaurant, I'll be sleeping through it all anyway." The boy just stands there, weighs everything, then pushes his plans back, while the heroes slap each other on the shoulder, say their goodbyes, and split up for good. The girl calls the hero by name and tells him she's gotta thank him for everything. She's listing exactly what food's on the menu and which herb they'll be using today. Shifa pulls the hero aside and tells him, "Tomorrow, come with me for a walk." Our main character springs into action, slipping into sharp formal clothes. Then his sister quizzes him, "Where are you headed?" And he's dressed to the nines while a cat just lounges nearby watching it all. The boy scratches behind Milk's ears and swears that Senna will handle everything for her today. Milk meows like she has questions, and the boy even apologizes in case he doesn't make it back. Then the day runs out, he heads off, and his sister and Milk just watch him disappear. He's thrilled because today he'll finally get some one-on-one time with Sifa. That means a real date, stylish spots, and a whole vibe that feels warm, smooth, and perfect. He can't wait, he grins like crazy, then spots a girl up ahead dressed sharp and she calls out good morning to him. The boy's so shy he can barely breathe and he blurts out, "Did I make you wait?" She shakes her head saying, "No, I just got here." Now he's spiraling, running through all those same old date lines in his head, then he asks where they should go. Sifa admits she already has her own idea in her head, and when the guy looks stunned, she tells him to hand it all over to her, because she's determined to thank him today. Sifa has the date plan all set just for him, and when he hears it, joy bursts out. He can't stop smiling. And as they keep going, he realizes today is going to be an absolute masterpiece of a day. The girl freezes on the spot, points straight at the gloomy house and declares, "We're here." In stunned silence, the main character stares in disbelief and blurts out, "Is this Marlin's pharmacy?" The girl nods, then cheerfully greets someone as she steps inside. The girl in the maid costume beams, says good morning, and spots the rare fact that it's just the two of them today. Then she asks, "Do you need anything?" The other girl shakes her head and says they're only browsing, and the maid suddenly turns the moment into a question. "So is this a date?" Suddenly she snaps to a realization, her face flips in an instant, and it hits them both. They never came to this abandoned building for a date. The main character is convinced this place is a total no-go for dates, while Sifak quietly scans the shelves, baffled about why any of this stuff is here in the first place. Seifa stares straight ahead, and he's over the moon just being near her, but you can tell he's dying to know what's really racing through her mind. Then the girl snaps her gaze to Gio and it totally throws him off. She asks, "Are you having fun?" The main character wrestles for the right words, then just nods and answers yes, while all this time his eyes are glued to the seafood. They slip out of the building in silence, and the maid tells them to come back. Then suddenly they're standing in a gun shop, where the main character can't help thinking this is the worst possible spot for a date. The boy clocks that Safer's back to staring off in silence, asks if she's having fun, she says yes, then he awkwardly blurts out like, "Is it really okay for me to do this?" He swears he's never been on a real date, and he's convinced they always end up in clothing stores, so he starts picturing a girl smiling at him like, "Which outfit looks best on me?" A mustached man lifts his hand and greets them, then points behind him and blurts that he just got something new, so do they want to try it? The girl and the boy just stare at him, silent. She slips into the first outfit and the main character goes, "You look insanely strong." until the weight smashes the vibe, so she swaps into a revealing one and grins, this one's light. Then the guy tilts his head and asks, is it not too light though? Cypher whirls to Geo and blurts, which one looks better? Geo squints, picks the light one with a grin, then admits, but it still doesn't look great. He shrugs it off like it's no big deal, then shyly looks away. The boy turns away fast and tells the girl, I just think you look way better in regular clothes. When they finally head out, the girl freezes in surprise, cheeks burning with a shy embarrassment. Then Geo leans in and asks Sifa if she wants to grab something, but she just stays quiet. Then Cifa drags the guy into this huge building, and just like that, the whole adventure slams shut, because this new place isn't for romance at all. Sifa points out the lobby, says the hotel sits on the second floor, tells Tom the training area is in the basement, and urges him to check it out. Then Tom realizes he's been here before, yet he still nods and agrees. Everyone freezes when Sifu shows up, and all eyes snap to the girl because they instantly clock it. She's a rank B adventurer. She realizes she's famous, but he still refuses to believe he's hanging out with a big-name legend, right there on a date with Sifa, while someone yells at him to focus. One guy swung his sword up at another man on the floor and growled that if he kept trembling, the monsters would devour him. Then the trembling guy nodded and agreed. One guy is nailing arrows into targets, another is drilling hard with a sword, and a third is just sitting back to rest, and Sifa is watching it all like it's a show. She stands there beside him and doubt claws at her, like, is this a real date or is she losing her mind? Honestly, from the start it never even felt like a real date. He was probably the only one who thought so. Two boys tell the third, this is your moment, and they hype him up, pushing him forward with non-stop encouragement and real support. The main character freezes in shock like he's about to spill his feelings to Sifi, and the boy turns to the girl, asks her to be his training partner, dips his head, and reaches out his hand. She wants to tell him, I'm tied up right now, but Geo waves it off, he's cool with it, and honestly, he's dying to see her spar. Sifa grips a spear like a storm cloud, the other guy swings a sword, and the main character's gut clenches, because this is the moment he finally gets to see her fight for the very first time. The boy screams that he'll do it, slams into the girl the second she blocks his strike, then charges back in instantly. The boy blinked in shock when the girl suddenly popped up beside him and yanked his sword clean out of his hands, and the main character couldn't believe it either. The boy crumples to the floor, the girl drives her spear straight at his head, and he blurts out that he surrenders. She's all grace and swagger with those smooth moves, and it hits him. Seifa in adventure mode is seriously badass, and he can't stop grinning that he got to see her like that. Another girl steps in and asks to train together, but Sifa shuts it down, saying she's done for now. Because she has urgent business today, everyone's shocked when she strides right up to the guy who asked if she was done. The girl leaned in and asked Geo if he was hungry. He shot back, yeah, and she dragged him toward a trendy cafe like it was the move. They push into the venue and the guy's jaw drops when it hits him. Yeah, they were here just yesterday. Right at the entrance, a girl in uniform greets them, menu in hand, then her eyes go wide when Geo and Sifa show up. She blurts out what they're doing here. Seifa tells him calm as can be, we came to eat, and he answers like, yeah, I got it. But that isn't what matters because the girl is clearly steering him somewhere else. She steps up to the guy, asks if he's really alone with her, and the second he answers, she fires back, so is this a date? Then the guy's like, what do I get out of it? And her anger flares as she snaps, I see no other reason for this. Geo says Sifa picked where they'd go, but somehow it didn't feel like a date at all. Then Sifa casually drops them right back at their restaurant. Geo was straight up having fun, even as he had no idea what she was thinking, and he still refused to believe this was a date. The girl tells him he's still way off. There's 100 years between now and a science fiction date. He's stunned, and Annie jumps in, tells him to pull up a seat, then says she'll come over and take their order. Geo can't shake the feeling he got way too cocky. Because Sifa isn't just older than him, she's an elite traveler, and there's no way she's on his level. When he finally shows up, Safa wastes no time and fires off, so what did you two talk about? He dodges the question, insisting he knows she'd whisk him somewhere way more special if it was a date. Then she asks if he's tired and he admits, yeah, just a little. What? She tells him, don't worry, once you take a bite of that delicious food, you'll feel better instantly. And he's shocked by how amazingly simple she really is. He grins and tells her she's dead on, okay, we've gotta eat so let's order more, then shrugs like it changes nothing. Because even if it isn't a date, it's still worth it. In the end, he still makes time for Cypher. Lucas is their go-to spot. The best restaurant he knows, maybe even the best in the world. The main character gets locked on a secret place in their mind, wishing they could finally talk to each other, and somehow give in at the very same time. The girl asks the boy, were you happy because of me? She racks her brain for good places, but every idea falls flat. She wanted him to genuinely have fun, because this day was her way of paying him back for everything. But she had no clue how to make happiness happen, so she dragged him through all her favorite spots, praying he'd feel the same joy. The boy's jaw dropped when it clicked, these places weren't random to her, they mattered deeply. She even teased the idea of heading to the dungeon, then she snapped out of it and changed her mind. She leans in and asks if he liked it, and the main character grins and says, "Yeah, I loved it." He tells you, "As long as I'm with you, we'll have fun wherever we go." And right then, he realizes it basically sounds like a confession. The girl flashes a smile and nods, and the main character exhales in relief, because somehow she's both totally weird and insanely cool. He caught a glimpse of Sifa's brand new side, one he'd never seen before, and somehow this day still felt absolutely magical. She tells him there's just one spot left, then drags him straight to her home, asking herself if she's about to introduce him to her father, and she just smiles and says it's one of her absolute favorite places. The main character is stuck in deep thought when someone blurts out they've got bad news. Turns out the grill says it came straight from the workshop. He learns her family runs a forge, and she fires off a question about what's going on with Billy's father. His father leans in and asks who the boy is, the boy answers and joy erupts. Then his father realizes exactly why he's showing up with Sif. He plays it dead serious and asks if he really has a date with the daughter, but she snaps, tells him to drop it, and demands to know what happened, because right now they're stuck in a mess. They're stunned when a strange man shows up and snaps that they're all too loud, then demands to know how things are going with the money. They corner the bald guy and demand to know why he's even showed up here in the first place. This is Kasia. He shows up just to shake him up and say, "I'm here because you've been owing me money for 3 months." The man swore he'd come back for sure, so they grabbed a massive order without hesitation. Sifa grabs one of her acquaintances and demands answers. Then he tells her the merchant who took the order just vanished out of nowhere. Kasia snaps at him to stop, and the second she asks if he can't get himself under control, anxiety starts clawing at him. He tries to shove the bad thoughts away, but deep down he feels his dealer may have flipped the script and set him up. He bursts into laughter and fires back, asking what on earth made him think that, even though he's already handed over enough extensions. Because he's the legal creditor and Gio can't shake the feeling that something's off about him. Find out if his father wants him to wait a little longer, then he'll bring everything back, no questions. Kasia is done waiting. He hands the blacksmith the deposit, but if the payment slips, he'll tear the whole place apart right here. He yells that the forge is his whole world, handed to him by his grandfather, and he refuses to let anyone tear it down. Pacia snaps, accusing her of giving up her daughter, then jabs a finger straight at her. The main character blasts into him, yelling, "Don't you dare spout that nonsense!" And everyone in the room instantly freezes, shocked to their core. Pacia stalks forward in full rage toward the guy who thinks he blurted something by accident, but before he can strike, someone yanks him back. Kasia realizes he's got him dead to rights and tells him, "You've got 3 days, use them to pull together the money." Someone rushes to the boss and blurts out, "I've called the Adventurers Guild again and again, but they swear they've never heard of any merchant with that name." He's convinced the orders all this time truly came from Hase himself, and once it hits him, he rushes to Gio, apologizing for dragging him into it, and begs Gio to let him explain everything. "I wouldn't call it all sunshine. Sure, they've got skilled workers and plenty of clients, but with the new ones things keep going sideways and the business has finally slipped into the red." One evening he was nursing a drink at the tavern when Hasia, the moneylender, slid up to him. That's how it all started. At first he swore he'd met a genuinely nice guy and things were going great. Then a fake trader slid them an order, and after that the guy just vanished and stopped answering. He keeps saying he trusted the wrong people, and now they're stuck in this mess because of him. Because right now they've got zero proof Casca did anything, and that debt is going to be brutal to pay back. The main character can't shake the feeling something's off, so instead of demanding money, he tries to stop the debt from ever getting paid, all while wondering if he even really needs that workshop. Maybe Sifha needs it, if only she could snag the boss's reward, but 3 days just won't cut it. The main character tells him, "I owe you so much, so if it's not asking too much, you've got to help us." The man grins and says it's really 500 gold coins. Then he holds up 5 fingers to prove it. Everyone's in total disbelief. Somehow, they've got to scrape together 500 gold coins in just 3 days. Seifa blurts out an apology for bothering him, then immediately insists he'll do everything he can to help. He reckons Seifa might be Rizah's real target, but even if Rizah hawks the harvest, he won't get the chance, so they need something else and fast. At times like these, he tries to find Lerica to spill everything, but he has no idea where she's gone. All he can do is wait. She'll show up tomorrow morning for the harvest. But he can't afford to stall. He's going to hunt down the truth about her through the trade guild. They tell him she's a ghost of a trader, so elusive that even they can't find her. So he begs them to at least give him a rough idea of where she might be. She has no clue where it could be, then out of nowhere she shows up and blurts, "This is a crazy spot to meet." She blurts out completely stunned, "I've been looking for you, I've got business to handle with you." The girl hears him out and says, "Whoa, that's intense." Then she points out the real reason. Turns out the main character just wanted to show her something. The hero yanks out a glittering chunk of ore and shoves it into view, and the girl's eyes go wide as she gasps, realizing it's gold ore. Geo claims he planted her in the garden. Then the girl freezes in shock, until he casually says that if he sells a mountain of that ore, the money will wipe out their debt. She shoots it down fast, because the authorities and the mine owners control everyone at the gold source. And if he starts moving huge batches, he'll get flagged for illegal mining, so he clocks it again. This is a dead end. She leans in and asks if there's anything else, especially mithril. It's dug up in high mana places no ruler can touch, and sure, the boy can sell it, but the girl snaps that doing so will put a target on his back. The girl flashes a grin, says she's got an idea, and pushes the task onto him, while he panics, because he thinks there are only 3 days left to knock out the debt. She flashes a confident smile, tells him not to stress, and hands the whole mess to her, and he nods, agreeing to let her take over. The boy is betting everything on her. Meanwhile, the man shields the money they've scraped together, but it's still short, and it looks like they'll have to give up the workshop. Right out of nowhere, the main character and Luruka stepped in and greeted them. And Luruka proudly said she was a merchant, then claimed she'd come to place an order exactly like Geo promised. The man announces they're shutting down, and the girl fires back that the client promised payment before a single task was finished, leaving him stunned. Lyrica has no clue if this move will cover his debt, but he's got to start talking. He needs to ask to take a look at something first. The man can't believe his eyes, so much mithril ore, and there's even more in her enchanted bag. She's ready to hand it over, but only if they place an order for 200 sets of shields and swords. She flashes the document and asks, will that cover everything? The man's stunned because the order for 200 sets is insane, and somehow that means they'll finally have the money to wipe out the debt. The moment the man hears it, alarm bells blare. This feels too perfect, like they're about to trick him, so his smile dies and seriousness takes over. She stays cool and tells him, you don't have to trust me, this is my first deal. Then she snaps, but this one was handed to me by Geo. Sifa rushes back to her father and assures him she's okay. She puts her trust in him. And he instantly realizes it was this same man who stood up for her. He nods and accepts the proposal, promises he'll go all in, and then grips hands with Larizia, who's leaning on him like everything rides on it. She hands him a pouch of money, and the man freezes, because it's packed with platinum coins. Cypher can't stop thinking about it since he heard those coins are worth way more than the regular kind and nobles and merchants use them. He's moving right now, but then he slams on the brakes and stops cold. Right before Cassia steps out the door, she bumps into a man and fires off. What's the rush all about? Cassia stands there with a couple guys and fires the question. Was he really planning to sneak out of the city in the middle of the night? The man leans in and reminds him, today's payday, if you bolt, you're gonna cause a major disaster. The man snaps at his daughter to stay put, warning she could be targeted, but the boy argues back that it's safer for her to stay in the workshop. Cassia hounded the blacksmith, asking if he'd pulled together the full amount. Then the blacksmith snapped back that, for that day, his debt came to 500 gold coins. The man flashes 2 coins and declares it'll be plenty, and everyone around him instantly stares in shock. They corner him and demand, how did you pull in all that cash in just 3 days? Lyrica lifts her hand and declares they've struck a deal, even though she's just the middleman. Phasia can't believe it. Who is this guy? He never thought anyone could pull off that kind of rise in just 3 days, and when he's confronted, he blurts out that he completely forgot about the interest. The man keeps pushing, and Hosea fires back that it's downright obvious, so he should spell out just how many times he felt sorry for him and push the payment back. He claims he needs 1,500 gold coins, and the other guy snaps, what is this nonsense? Where'd you pull those numbers from? Then it hits you, those figures are the real exact debt. The man snaps that the workshop has barely enough coins to even touch the debt, so he's got one brutal option left, hand over his daughter. Rage boils in his veins as he snarls that he'll have to kill his opponent, but everyone else rushes in, begging him to calm down and swear they won't resort to fighting. The main character strides up to the bald man, face set in stone, and tells him he'll never let this happen. Then he's shocked by what comes next. Pacia snaps with rage as soon as she recognizes him, shouting again that he keeps butting in, so is he really done with life? He answers that it's somehow tied to him. With a grin full of certainty, the main character declares, Sepha is my dear friend, and the girl can't help but stare in shock. Lyric cuts them off on the spot and admits she couldn't finish that job for the client. The girl flashes the document and declares the client owns these lands, and the whole crowd goes silent, stunned by the bombshell. Inside the palace, someone at the table snaps that there's nothing left to do, yet they still have to come to Laritzia's aid. The heroine jerks back in shock, and it hits her. She finally understands what the head of Arsal's provincial town was really saying. Once Aya yanks her hand back from the boy, the seal finally clicks, and every last doubt she had vanishes for good. The lyrics warn him, If he dares to squeeze an unfair fee out of the workshop, the ruler will catch him red-handed. Kazuya's friends are furious. He clenches his teeth, swallows his anger, and takes the 500 gold coins. Then the man snaps that it's time to go, and all four of them stare as they walk out. The man blurts out, panicked, asking if the boy's hurt. Then the boy goes totally wide-eyed with shock, and suddenly someone swings their head toward Gio. The main character shoots Seifa an apology for what he did, and then, heart-pounding, he admits he's just relieved everything turned out okay. The girl lunges in and wraps her arms around the boy. He freezes in shock, while everyone stares, and she finally thanks Gio. The boy's still in shock, blurting that nothing would have happened without Laruka, while another man presses her hard, asking if she really took an order from the ruler and gushing that she's an unbelievable traitor. That girl lit up because Gio genuinely puts his heart into helping others, and it shows. She tells him he's seriously cool and a real knight through and through, but the guy suddenly realizes, right in front of Cypher, that he just said something way too bold. The girl blurts out that she couldn't hear a thing because she was way too far, and Gio's jaw drops in shock. The man declares, "Today I saved you, Seifa, thank me one more time." And the other guy shrugs, saying, "Nah, you don't have to, one hug is plenty." The main character thinks that, normally, there's no way he could ever stand toe-to-toe with a scary guy like that. Rage flared in Kazuya's chest as he couldn't wrap his head around how he'd sabotaged himself. He'd trained and prepped for so long, yet the whole plan collapsed anyway. One of the guys tells him, "No matter how hard you hunted, you couldn't crack her base. But you sure stumbled on the most famous spot in the whole area. This is the house where two adult siblings, brother and sister, now live, and yeah, that guy is under the same roof too, which means he's getting captured pronto." The girl grins and reveals her brand new potion. She nailed it. And when the beautiful blue glow spills out, they both stare at the bottle in awe. She's pressed about the potion denies says might work, and the maid-costumed girl snaps that it's the assistant's duty, so she's shoved into trying it herself, then gulps down the foamy brew. Then the girl dares her to dip her face into the water while gripping the bucket. She doesn't hesitate and plunges in. Her eyes fly wide as she realizes she can breathe underwater, and Dennis can't help but tell Marlene, "That's wild, it's strange you can breathe down there." Marlene reveals this underwater elixir crafted from aerial flowers that lets you feel just as alive as you do on land, even when you're deep underwater. TA blurts out, "Gio, did you bring these flowers?" Gio nods, and yeah, they're right here because these blooms only show up thousands of meters above sea level, an ingredient so rare it feels unreal. She can't let it go, so she hunts down Marlene and demands to know where that guy's getting those insane ingredients. She blurts out, "So what are you gonna do with that water and that bottle you just drank from?" And pushes the idea hard. Better to dump it right now, or better yet, let her handle it herself. Marlene tells everyone, "I'll need water," and adds that this bottle will grow into a priceless family relic. Seifa strides into the building, throws out an apology for barging in, and the girls freeze, shocked that someone actually brought it. Dennis dumps the water out right then. Marlene's eyes instantly fill with tears, and after that Dennis steps up and greets Cypher. Dennis leans in and asks if she came for what he's been setting up for the next trip. And if she's here, she's perfectly on time, because Marlene has already brewed the potion. Milk caught a mouth-watering scent in the air, clocked that it was lunchtime, and stood there gripping food like she'd just been summoned. The main character leans in and tells the Milk, "My favorite dish is fried mackerel. My sister swears he's grown like crazy. Lately he's been sipping milk too, getting bigger than she ever imagined, and somehow, even with him being a cat, he's turned into a whole big beast. He swears it's still a monster egg, babying it like a treasure, then conveniently forgets the milk could be dangerous. He clutches the milk like it's treasure and admits, yeah, he's grown, but he's still spoiled rotten. Then his sister grins, calls him cute, and tries to pet him too. Milk snaps her gaze to her, and the guy leans in to tell Tseni it looks like he doesn't love her, so she fires back, "Why?" The boy fires off, "Are we heading to the dungeon today?" Then tells her to eat because she's still hunting that pair and demands, "So what area are we exploring?" Everyone crowds the entrance to the underwater zone, and the truth hits hard. They're at a disadvantage and have to hold their breath until they crush open the water potion and finally test it out, because that ice turns out to be terrifyingly effective. Then, like a synchronized heartbeat, they plunge straight into the water and disappear below the surface, racing down into the deep. She's stunned. Somehow she can breathe and move like it's nothing underwater, and her clothes stay bone dry. They can hear each other perfectly. She shoots a look at her partners. Her hunting instincts are still on fire, and she can feel that monster creeping closer. A savage shark with razor teeth charges up toward them, and the girls just stare like, "Wait, that's gotta be some huge fish, right?" One of them lunged after the shark and in the blink of an eye slammed it with a single strike. Right then and there it dropped dead. Everyone swears Sina's swordplay hasn't dulled one bit, and they're convinced they'll steamroll this place, because Marlene's potions have never failed, and Gio even gathered the ingredients, or at least that's what they believed. Of course they know nothing about the dungeon, so they tear through the rooms by instinct, mapping every turn and scribbling it all onto their plan as they go. Then they stroll down the aisle and spot underwater plants and darting fish, completely stunned by how breathtaking this place looks. The girls stare at the coral, wondering if it's even real. And if the dungeon didn't ruin everything, this would have been a goldmine for tourists. But don't relax, monsters are lurking everywhere, and one of them is hiding right behind the corals. Geo can't even grow fish like these. So yeah, I'm curious if they taste good, but raising monsters here is still a terrible idea. The girl insists they're not that dangerous, but the real killer is breathing underwater. This dungeon is brutal, unless you've got water potions, because then it turns out to be way easier than it looks. Then she spots something off and tells everyone to come take a look. All three girls freeze in shock, staring at the colossal dark silhouette lurking in the water, and their minds scream that it must be the boss of the underwater zone. Meanwhile, back at Gio's house, night has already swallowed everything. Our main character is tucked in, sleeping like a dream. Then someone asks, "Is this the place?" And the reply comes quick, "Yes." Shadows crowd the front of the house, trading whispers about his missing sister. This is their opening, and all they have to do is grab one guy and race after him before he slips away. Once the door cracked open, Milk perked up, heard it loud and clear, then snarled and yanked the boy by his clothes. The boy jolted awake and demanded what was going on, and Milk just stared ahead and growled again. The protagonist stares at the door up ahead, his heart wondering, is it Senna? But the truth is clear, it's not her, and the real visitor's identity stays a total mystery. Suddenly, the Milk explodes with a roar and charges straight into the enemies, sending them into panic as they scramble to strike back, all while they're stunned, half thinking it's a cat. One of the guys yanks out a knife, and the main character screams at his protege, "Watch it," while Milk stays ice calm and slips right past the enemy's strike. Then he rakes one opponent with his paw, and they shriek that this isn't a normal cat at all. It has to be chased out of here. The main character freezes in shock, staring at everything that just happened, then blurts out to Milk, "Are you hurt?" But the boy instantly realizes Milk's warning isn't finished and they've got to sprint to the garden. The main character steps outside with a cat, and before he can even blink, everyone spots him, yelling that he's in the yard and the cat has to be caught. Gio slips away, and the moment he's free, dread hits. If those guys find him and grab him, he's heading straight for trouble. The main character tells Milk, "Don't freak out, I've got strong friends," and right on cue, a golem suddenly stomps into the scene. He lunges at one of the guys. Right behind that first one, another golem is standing there. And when they see what the golems are doing in this place, everyone's stunned out of their minds. One of the guys snaps at them to calm down. There are that many here yet, and it's like reinforcements keep pouring in one after another. The enemies freeze in shock, then blurt, "How many of us are here, and how many more are you gonna make trample with just one guy?" The man tells his boss that more golems have crawled out from who knows where. Gio is stunned to see new eyes in the chaos, and before the golem can lunge, he snaps into action and reacts just in time. He suddenly slams the golem down, grills his subordinates about what's wrong with that clay, and it looks like a total punchline, while his own people walk away satisfied. He's stunned to realize the new creditor is the same one who came for revenge, and the moment it clicks, he swings into action, dispatching the golem fast. One of the guys shoots the warning, "No matter what you do, they're going to crawl back up." Then Hasia immediately goes for the next golem. He clashes with them, then snaps his head as he spots the main character slipping out from behind that tree, like he's been hiding in plain sight, cloaked in milk. Because they know this, no matter how many times he asks Gio if he did it, all those questions hit the same wall and nothing changes. The main character bolts to escape, and Chelsea snaps that the guy truly thinks he can outrun him, like he gets to waste his time. A massive golem bursts out from behind the tree. Kazuya freezes in pure shock, blurts out what it even is, and before the words finish, he's already gearing up to attack. The man swings his sword at the column, but when it shatters on impact, he freezes in pure disbelief. He brushes it off as total nonsense, then drops to the ground, staring around like, where did all these monsters even come from? Kazuya bursts in and demands to know if his men are getting wrecked by those clay golems. Hidden behind the tree, the main character's jaw drops at this guy's raw strength. He mows down the golems with zero trouble, and at this pace, he'll wipe every last one of them out. Milk's body snaps into Gio and he agrees to back off. But now they've got to scramble on what happens next, because those giants won't even slow him down. Gio's mind races for a way out, then the system suddenly blares. Thanks to the Mega Guardian, his home garden has skyrocketed to level 20. Gio whips his head around and realizes he hasn't tried this skill yet, but the option looks awful, so he bites the bullet, and the golem starts crawling out of the clay as it forms. He's stunned he can summon Mega Guardians like that, and every single time the system demands permission, so he grants it and spawns 3 more, exactly the same size. The man freezes in shock, staring at the guards, because the main character had no idea he could summon golems that huge, and lucky for him, it's the middle of the night while they're still planted right in the middle of the street. A man slumps to the ground, stares at the golems, and dread washes over him as he thinks, this is nothing but nonsense. The main character snaps an order for the golems to hurl that guy out of here. Then one of them shoots straight toward Kaisai. The golem yanks the man in, but he thrashes hard, yelling for the thing to let him go right now. He stares down in pure shock at the terrifying height. Golem yanks his grip loose, and he crashes to the ground, smashing his back with a brutal, painful thud. Blood pours from his mouth as he crumples on the ground, and his people rush in, staring in terrified shock. Two of them grab it and the rest freak out. This isn't a garden, it's chaos. They shove that thought into their heads and bolt because they're sure nothing good waits for them here. The protagonist stares forward, then gapes up at the giant and blurts, so the danger's gone. Milk joyfully rubs her head against the owner's leg and Gio's face lights up like he just won. The guy brags that the mega guards treat him like their pet, then dares them with what he'd do if they weren't around. At the same time, a whole crowd of fish swirls through the underwater world as three girls scramble onto the shore and plop down. She can't wrap her head around it. Her boss was a colossal monster, about 100 meters long, and she definitely shouldn't have brushed off that weird, unfamiliar terrain. Sifa grills the girl, asking if she thinks they can really take him down, and the girl grins and says yes because he'll be so tasty. Then she snaps it back. Stop thinking about that for now, even if Sifa agrees, so far everything's going way too well. So they chose to dig deeper in this area for a bit before heading back, because right now they're not taking on the boss. That thing is massive, and one step by it and everyone would instantly notice, plus they've still got Annie's gift on their side. First you down the potion, one girl hands it to the next and she's convinced. The third just can't shake the feeling that for a monster that big, its presence looks way too unreal, like maybe they imagined the whole thing. The girls are underwater and one by one they nod like, all right, we've probably seen enough. Then they burst to the surface, ready to finally head home. A monstrous black sea titan surfaces in front of them, and pure terror locks their bodies in place. The girls blink in shock as he suddenly materializes right in front of them, while her hunting instinct never even sensed a thing. Then they decide to bust out of here, only to realize that monster is right on their heels hunting them down. He gapes wide and starts gulping water, and the girls spin around, realizing if he keeps going at this speed, he'll swallow them next. Suddenly, Cypher slams on the brakes, jolting both girls, and then she goes, wait, he's not scary at all, is he? The girl insists the volcano never looked like this, so Sifa shoots her hand forward and unleashes the Empress power, a gift that weakens foes, but the mightier the enemy, the less it manages to do. With an opponent that monstrous, he's basically useless, so the girl spots something and tells them, look over there. They're left frozen in shock as his body starts to crumble and fall apart right in front of them. The braid admits, yeah, it knew all along, and that big fish was never one whole monster. Now the thing keeps breaking apart piece by piece. It wasn't a single monster at all. It was a whole swarm of tiny fish, and once the girls spotted how many there were, shock hit. She finally understood why his power felt so faint, and then she yanked her sword. They crowd around the fish, hearts pounding, and then it hits them. The whole thing was a trick, a fake show meant to fool them. They warn everyone, don't you dare mess around, there's probably a boss in the group stronger than the rest. And right then one of the girls steps forward. She's about to handle every last fish at once. She thrusts out her hand with magic blazing and declares she'll take over the support, then tells the little fish to bow to her. When the fish finally heard the girl and shot straight toward them, another girl crashed in with a sword attack. The girl says the Empress's power is crushing them, their moves have slowed to a crawl, and they're going to get pushed back rank by rank. Right after that, the fish bolt straight for the girls, then a few crash into them and the screams explode. They feel it, this giant school of fish is charging straight at them, and they know they can't keep crashing into them like this, because the girls watch the swarm clump back together, ready to strike again. Looks like the fish are coming back, and the girls wasting no time, luring the tiny ones straight toward her. The girls snap to it again, everything's falling apart fast, and if they keep getting hit like this, they're going to get wiped out, and it hurts like hell. The girl spots the biggest fish in the whole pile, and her stomach drops when she realizes it's actually her. Then she whips out her sword and cleaves herself in half. The fish gasps one last time, and when it finally dies, all the tiny fish bolt for their lives and the girls all spot it at once. They're freaking out, asking if this is the end while everyone just bolts, and the girl who killed the fish tells them, I did it. And the moment I did, everyone else ran for their lives. This slave was clearly the one in charge. He barked out orders and the others obeyed, and it totally stunned the girls. Santa gets asked how she spotted it in that chaotic crowd of fish, and she just shrugs, says it was pure luck and instinct, then cuts it in half with a grin. Her friends gush about how insane her skill is, calling her unmatched and incredible, and she can only awkwardly laugh it off. By the end, they're arguing whether he runs this area. Yeah, it sure looks like it, but looks can lie, and one thing's clear. He's still terrifyingly strong because Senna's whole body is aching. Then they burst into the passage, racing back to the guild because they've got to spill every last detail. At the guild, a cheerful girl beams at them on the spot, tells Siffy she showed up right on time, and every girl in there snaps to attention, completely shocked. Siffa pounced on Kenalia and asked what happened, and she grinned and blurted out the good news. She and the crew just pulled off a conquest of the volcanic region. Because of everything they've accomplished, people are suddenly dying to meet them, and the girls are totally thrown for a loop. CIF claims they've finished taking over the underwater zone. Kenalia starts off calm, then suddenly freezes, screams in pure shock. The girl's stunned, and she blurts out that she can't even find the words for how they pulled off something this insane in such a short time. And they're about to get the warm welcome they've been waiting for, because the one demanding to see them is none other than our chamber's ruler himself. The girls stare in disbelief. It's the ruler himself. Kenalia blurts that they were told they'd been invited straight to the castle. One of them claims it's an important someone, asks whether they've ever met rulers. But for folks like them, those people might as well be flying in the clouds. Kenalia brags that after they seized the volcanic region, it turned into a magnet for adventurers. And now it's booming like crazy, fueled by a flood of valuable raw materials. The ruler finally wants to meet these brand new adventurers for the first time, maybe because of what they pulled off, though it's all thanks to the apothecary who brewed the potion. Kenalia admits that's why she got an invite too, tight-lipped, on edge, and clearly not comfortable at all with the news. Gio's sister blurts out a question about her brother, but her friend slams a hand over her mouth and hisses that Gio's garden is off-limits, total secrecy. Kenalia admits it's a total shock, but they've got to make it back to the castle for dinner in 5 days, and Siffis laughs it off, because after they crush the underwater region, they'll finally get to rest. The girls light up now that the holidays are finally here, and they all agree to meet up in 5 days. Then they split on the street. Gio's sister strolls down the street, savoring how crushingly good she's been as an adventurer. Then she finally lets her guard down and dares Gio to pamper her. He grips a plate of food in his hands and tells himself nothing happened after that incident. But ever since then, Milk can't calm down for a second. The main character replays those bandits in his head, wondering if they've even stopped trying to make their move. They might come roaring back any minute, the hay still won't get gathered, and nobody even knows if they truly managed to snatch it. Suddenly, a nasty creak snaps through the room. My main character and the Milk freeze in panic. The Milk lunges forward, and the boy can't even tell if it's them again. But wait, this is Seinet. She's stunned because Milk suddenly comes in overflowing with energy, while the main character can't stop smiling at her arrival. She's thrilled she's finally doing great, but today she rolls in later than ever. Sign rushes to tell her brother that something hit her out of nowhere, and now she's got to rest for a few days. The main character coaxes Milk to calm down and tells her, "It's just Senna, she's not your enemy." And just like that, the cat seems to believe it while the girl shoots back, "So, what happened to you two?" The boy lays out the whole story to her, and when she's left reeling, she blurts out again, "So you really weren't attacked last night?" She fires off, "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" And Gio tells her the Milk and the giants totally came through, they protected him like a shield. After all that, they couldn't get a wink of sleep, because the next attack could hit any moment, and they had no clue when. The girl absorbs every word, and the moment it clicks, her gut screams this is bigger than it sounds. "So tell me, who are these attackers?" Among them, the main character pointed out a burly bald man covered in tattoos. He swung a sword like a pro, and his eyes were set on bringing down the giants. The boy tells Cindy to lock in tight and barricade her room door at night, because an attack could strike even outside the house. Then she waves it off, telling him not to worry since she'll handle herself. The man basically tells her, "Yeah, you're an adventurer, but you're still green and you charge and way too recklessly." The girl tells Gio she'll head out any moment to meet the city's ruler, then his face freezes in shock as he blurts, "What did you do?" She just smiles and tells him she was invited, and before they can breathe, morning finally rolls in. Geostan, Gollum, and Milk huddle up, debating Sina's magical stone and dreaming of rebuilding the garden's defenses. Then they can't help but wonder, has Sina been awake this whole time because she's out there adventuring? He tells himself he has to do everything so she never burns herself out. Because yes, mega hallums are insanely strong, but you can't use them during the day. He's torn between roots, weighing how to stop Kazi, and as he remembers that magical stone, he realizes he's unlocked a brand new skill. Now he can grow fresh crops from scratch. Then the main character snaps back to a skill he mastered long ago, one he'd never dared to use, and now he's itching to finally test it. The boy darts through the gardens and then boom, realizes he can slip away with teleportation, only for the system to ask, "Want to move?" Gio nods and still can't make it happen. He figures it'll be temporary, and once he gets the chance, he's got to switch gears and train a whole new skill. Then the guy tries to fire off the garden movement skill, but the system suddenly demands a switch to movement mode, and Gio blurts yes, totally baffled. Then the ground rips and trembles under his feet. Milk streaks up to him in terror, while he's frozen in shock, blurts out what just happened, and finally spots the house straight ahead. The main character peers over and realizes the neighbor's house has shrunk a little, and his brain immediately screams that it can't be real. He strides up to the house, and then freezes when he realizes he's standing on Newland. The system hits him with a question about moving the garden. He shrugs and says it's just a little closer. And then bam, the house pops right in front of him as he yells at it to back off. Then the house snaps back into place, and the main character can't believe what he just saw. He realizes he can't slip through the garden to escape, because that would scream, "Look at me," and the mega golems would catch him in an instant. He thinks these skills are just too much trouble, but when it's time to harvest, he's convinced he can grow something truly incredible. The main character stares at a list of choices, just colors, with nothing else to guide him, and he crumples to the ground in pure despair. With a heavy sigh, the main character mutters that he won't need it, and then out of nowhere the milk slaps his cheek. The boy stares at Milk and the giant, shocked, then it hits him. They're doing everything they can to lift his spirits. The main character tells them, if it happens again, I'll pull out every trick in the book to deal with it, and he's betting everything on them. Then he just stands there, frozen in the moment, realizing he's still scared, until Sane steps up right beside him. He finally gets it. Fear has to take a back seat because he's got to protect her, and when the girl steps in behind him, she hears every word. The boy snaps to it. She needs to wake up, so he rushes home and orders Senna to smash the barricade, and she, calm as ever, just opens it. The main character bursts into the room, freezes at an empty bed, then whips around to his sister, stunned. Kezia is choking with rage, hammers the wall with his fists, and as Gio flashes in his mind, he vows he'll make them pay for everything. In that moment, they bolted in fear because they couldn't deal with some kid, but they'd always been great at talking. Still, the truth was they'd never laid eyes on these golems, and they weren't about to do a thing to them. They ripped his title away and watched his own subordinates turn their backs on him. Once they kicked him out, his life was on a countdown because he knew too much, so they ordered him to eliminate Gio. He knows it all traces back to that no-good scoundrel, but he can't just storm into that creepy house, so he decides to wait right there until the guy steps out onto the street. He spots a girl stepping out of the house, and it clicks. Someone told him Gio lives with his adventurer's sister. He's convinced that the girl who just came of age will be flawless, so he swings her into play to bait that guy out of hiding. Then he slips into the empty alley right after her, and for a moment he thinks, this can't get any better. He whirls back to the girl standing there facing away from him. Kaisia leans in and tells Santi straight up. If she doesn't want to die, she needs to keep quiet, and then Santi goes on to describe the man's face and look. The girl whirls toward him with a grin and asks straight up if he attacked her brother, shocking him into silence. He can't figure out why she's acting like this, so he presses her, asking whether her brother told her anything about him, and she nods, and just like that he grins. Perfect, now it'll be easy, and she'll obey him from this moment on. The girl stays calm and refuses. Kaisai snaps a sword out and tells her straight to the face that she still doesn't get what mess she stepped into. The girl grabs his attention and tells him he has to wake up to the trouble he's standing in. Suddenly, the girl slashes forward. The man's sword clatters to the ground and blood pours from his wounded shoulder. Blood splatters the ground as he freezes in stunned silence, because he saw absolutely nothing at all. The girl storms up to him and snaps that he's put her brother in danger, crossed that line, and she calls it unforgivable. And as long as he's anywhere near, he'll never get a peaceful night's sleep. The man stumbles backward in shock, demands the girl get back up, and for a split second he's terrified of her. She jams a sword against him and orders him to never come near her brother again. Kassia's sure that going after them in the first place was the biggest mistake of his life. The main character came barreling back to Sen, grinning and asking what happened, and the guy fired back that he just wanted to know where she'd been. Sen only shrugged and said she'd taken a little walk. The boy tells her, I warned you yesterday, going out alone is dangerous and someone could attack you. And when the girl replies, I met Hosea, the boy's jaw drops in pure shock. The girl snaps that he can finally cool off, because he swore he'd never bother her again. He leans in and asks if she was truly in danger. When she nods and confirms it, a huge wave of relief hits him and he finally smiles. He's left staring at the truth, stuck between two terrifying possibilities. Did he just quit, or is she insanely, ridiculously strong? Sena asks Gio if he can finally chill now and tells him she's got plenty of sleep coming. Gio nods like yeah, that checks out. The girl tells him not to worry, she's got him always, and he's left totally confused because it's his younger sister stepping up to protect him. She tells him relax, everything's fine, because he's the sweetest kind of weak and that's the truth. The main character barges into the room, shakes Senna awake and tells her today an important meeting is waiting for us. The girl snaps back to it and realizes she's got a meeting with the ruler of Arsula today. A suited man and a maid beam as they greet the girls, thanking them for showing up like they've been waiting forever. And then he snaps, telling Sifa, Annie, Sina, and Marlon to follow him. The girls stroll in gawk-wide, stunned by just how massive this place is. and every inch of it screams pure luxury, all glossy and shining. They're a little on edge, dying to know what this ruler is really like, because he's only been him for a few short years. Sifa blurts that she wants to talk, right now, and she snaps her gaze back at the girl lagging behind them. Marlon blurts out that she wants to go home, and nobody can pin down why she's even here, until she's reminded that the ruler praised her big contribution, and she snaps that it would have been better if Denny's had been allowed to come too, but somehow he wasn't invited. Marlon blurts out why. Because Denny shows up every day lifting her spirits, refreshing her soul, and then he says, "We're here," pushes inside, and tells everyone the guests have finally arrived. The girl in the room shoots them a grateful smile, introduces herself as Elizabeth Arsal, the ruler, and pulls them in with a warm, heartfelt welcome. All three girls stare in shock at her beauty, but Sina blurts it out anyway, so the girls rush to calm her down and beg her to stop being so rude right in front of the ruler. Sifa asks Elizabeth, "Have we met before?" while one of the girls insists with absolute certainty that it's impossible. Then Elizabeth blurts out that she spotted Santa just a few days ago. She's finally ready to meet that amazing pharmacist everyone's been raving about, and Marlon freaks out, darting behind Sifa's back for cover. Suddenly, the girls spot the truth and start comparing Elizabeth to the traveler Eliza. Then it hits them. They're the same person. Elizabeth can't hide her joy now that they finally figured it out. The dungeon woman wasn't just some prisoner, she was the ruler all along, and honestly it's hard to wrap your head around. The girl tells her, "If a ruler locks themselves in power alone, their body starts to fail, so I get to live it up as an adventurer named Eliza." That man had never even heard the rumor. Countess Vi was ruling and adventuring at the exact same time. Elizabeth adds that their knights will benefit too, because she's pushing them into real combat training. She quickly pieces it all together. Her group weren't just any fighters, they were knights from the castle, so that's why they got bumped up to a B rank. Elizabeth snaps that it's all lies, because as a teen she bolted from home, roamed the world, and that's exactly when she got promoted. 5 years back, when she hit 30, her older brother died, and even though she still dreamed of roaming the world, she had to swallow it all, march back home, and take the throne as ruler. Sorry this took so long. Elizabeth tells them she brought them here because their mind-blowing dungeon wins have pumped the region's economy full of life, and she just wants to thank them for it. One of the four girls claims they're respected, and Elizabeth shoots back that she heard they just conquered this insane underwater area. Then she grins and demands they spill every detail of their heroic tale over dinner. They stride up to that lavish table and stare in awe as every dish looks so real it might as well be a feast itself. So much is going on they can barely process it. Here they are tasting food straight from the castle. Santa swears it's delicious, her friend snaps that they should mind their manners, and Elizabeth just shrugs like it's all fine. The girl says her best chefs pour their hearts and every ounce of effort into these dishes. So go on, eat all you want. One of them takes a bite, instantly gets hooked, and can't stop. Because the meat is so juicy it just melts the moment it hits their mouth. Siva cracks a smile because the soup smells amazing and looks even better, so she takes a sip and she's like, "Wow, that's incredibly tasty." She's blown away by the fish dishes, because fish is ridiculously pricey at the market. But she doesn't freak out about it sitting on the ruler's table, and Marlon even quips that Dennis's cheeks are the tastier treat. The ingredients hit so fresh and packed with flavor that it instantly reminds you of something you can't quite name. Elizabeth leans in and asks what's wrong and which dish they hated, but the truth is none of it landed on disliked, because everything is seriously tasty. Elizabeth stared at the food, blown away by how even the ingredients felt unreal, and she made it official. She buys every single one from the merchant. But she never spills where she got it all. Still, the girls get it right away. These are ingredients grown by Gio. Sifa can't believe all the years he poured into his growth led to this nightmare. She can't be allowed to see the garden, they knew that. And right now, Marlon is sitting there with Mrs. Denny's. They finally finished their meal and Elizabeth leaned in to ask, "Did we eat well?" And they nodded hard, grinning as they said it was absolutely delicious, then they bowed to thank the ruler. Elizabeth declares that after everything they've accomplished, she wants to honor them with an award right now. Whatever they wanted, the girls convinced themselves this holiday was the reward they'd earned. The man bows to the ruler and announces, "Laruka is here," but adds she's caught up entertaining their guests, so she should ask what Laruka needs and hear that it's just not the right moment because she's already busy with them. Elizabeth asks the girls about Merchant Lyra Caladia, and their faces light up as they instantly recognize her. Elizabeth begs her husband to take her there, and he obeys without a second thought. Then Sifa whispers a few words to Elizabeth that knock the wind right out of her. She tells how she just saved her father's forge, gets thanked for it, and then pushes the order, mithril weapons forged in bulk, sending everything through Laruka as the go-between. Elizabeth blinked in shock at what her father pulled off. Just a clean, quick deal sealed with one promise. Delivery the very next day, and the quality was so good it felt unreal. She couldn't stop smiling over the cheap mithril weapons, but for Sifa that kind of price hit hard, because there was no way to explain where all that mithril came from until Sifa snapped, Liruka planted it. Yuuka bursts in, greets them all and says, "Looks like you're already here, everyone's been waiting." They were just swapping stories about the mithril weapon Elizabeth had bought, and she had no clue it was forged by the Sefa family. She tells him she handed over the mithril, so they never paid her a single coin. Then Liruka steps in and says, "Don't worry." The girl throws up a hand for silence, and the others instantly get it, so even mithril could be growing in that garden. Elizabeth shoots the saleswoman a sharp question, "Why is she here today?" The saleswoman answers that she heard Elizabeth invited the girls here. Elizabeth fires off whether everyone's picked the award they want, yet nobody's decided anything, and Laruka turns to the girls to ask if they'll hear her plan. The master gets stuck on what Laruka's been whispering into their minds, while Marlon just can't wait to break free and go home. The girls tell Ruka the plan is brilliant, and right then everyone crowds Elizabeth because the choice has already been made. The boy hands over the milk, then can't stop wondering what's really on the menu in that castle. His mind races to a crazy lavish banquet, the kind a kid like him has never even dreamed of seeing. The main character's mind is blown by how good plain food tastes, and they still can't wrap their head around the fact that they got invited to the castle. Pulling off a B-rank promotion at that age is wild impressive, but Sifa's been slowly pushing him away, while Sani's practically getting struck by good fortune, because the ruler himself personally invited her. Now it's back to the garden, harvest first for Lucas, then the moment the next crop ripens, it's on its way to Laruka. He'd love to plant something new, but the land is packed tight with no room to spare. He strides through the garden, then freezes when his sister's voice rings out, telling him she's already back home, leaving him stunned. The main character suddenly hears Laruka and Annie's voices, panics about keeping Milka's secret safe, and begs him to vanish into the garden. Sifa blurted an apology for showing up without an invite, then froze when she actually arrived, while the boy stared and demanded what they were doing here because he thought they'd been invited to the castle. The girls tell him something, and he's thrown for a loop when the ruler grants them land rights on the spot. So as a reward, they hand him unused land no one touches. He asks what they'll do with it, and the girls grin and promise they'll give it straight to him. They're demanding he use it to widen the garden, and he's totally stunned. Lurica shoots back that it was her idea, and everyone immediately nodded along. The girls swear it all happened because of Gio. He didn't just help them, he even saved Sifa's dad's workshop and Annie's sister's restaurant, so they're determined to thank him. He awkwardly blurts that he might have only helped a bit, then admits they still carried all the heavy lifting. And he insists nobody should flaunt the garden's wins, yet he's fully sure he earned that award and that public spotlight. His sister swears his garden is full of secrets, but it's still straight up incredible. The main character bows to the girls, then declares that nothing on earth could top the joy of accepting this gift. Sifa asks if he'll actually use the gift, and he nods, because every level bumps the garden bigger, making a wider plot way more useful, and then he spots the milk. Every girl's eyes snap to him, and the boy who'd begged him to hide can't believe it when he actually shows up. The lyrics gasp, "Wait, it's a snow leopard." They stare in shock and demand what kind of monster would dare show up in a place like this. The man shouts for them to stop, insisting it's not a crime at all, it's his pet's milk. The boy clutches the milk to his chest and swears it's totally safe, and you can tell, he's so attached to it that it might as well be part of him. Senna can't help but think the cat looked way too big, so they shot him a question. Where did he even get it from? The main character cracks open the truth. Yeah, he doesn't just grow monsters in the world, he can even grow monster eggs in his own garden. Someone asks if he's really sure this skill can still be developed, and Gio fires back that he'll breed monsters on a massive scale. But he'll never let it touch evil, not while he's secretly taking extra steps to make sure nobody ever finds his garden. The lyrics brag that monsters swarm this empty land beyond the city, that you'll have to march for miles because nobody's settled there, that the place is wide open, and that the Lord ended up being ridiculously generous. So honestly, they got off lucky with free territory. The main character can't stop asking himself what that land his friends swore by is really like. Then they finally stumbled into the place and froze in shock at the miserable, gloomy land, because it was a swamp. Elizabeth asks, "Do you want uninhabited land, big, empty, and nowhere near the city with fresh air at your doorstep?" Then she leans in, "And are you sure it's in the right spot for you?" They wrote those rules themselves, but nobody braced for how fast that choice would turn into a total swamp. They know full well monsters still lurk there, so nothing's going to grow ever. Nobody told her exactly how this land would be used, but she checks the boxes anyway. Now she has to find out what Gio really thinks and whether anything can truly grow here. The system quizzes the guy wants to mark the garden, and he realizes this spot works too, so he marks it and boom, the garden's marked. The main character laughs, calling it perfect, then the other guy snaps to it. Everything that just happened was over in an instant and the monsters never even moved. They panicked for nothing and now, for the very first time, the pioneers of this land are finally headed to Juiced. They all admit this garden is massive, so Gio picked a random starting size, not even sure it'll be enough, and the girls nod along with him. He only mapped out 100 square meters, and now that number has exploded 200 times bigger. And he doesn't have a clue how to use every inch of space to start planting. He's convinced this garden was handed to him because everyone fought for it, and honestly he gets it, at least to a certain point. He keeps nodding and saying yes over and over, but the girls can't figure out who he's actually talking to. They spot the monsters closing in, eyes blazing with rage, and with their home gone they have no choice but to fall back. The main character tells the girls not to panic, then builds a mech defender that those monsters are terrified to face. The girls are stunned and blurt out, "What is this?" Because the garden is huge and it's screaming that they need a few more guards right now. So they'll walk in and calmly wipe the garden clean of monsters themselves, and the girls are stunned. Gio's already spinning over what to do next. The main character slams a protective wall generator into gear, builds a fortress around the garden, and then vanishes it from sight so nobody can ever track it down. Now he can teleport straight between the gardens and slip to the girls, telling them, "I'll be back soon." And he scoffs at it. She calls it pure nonsense, just a little home garden, and everyone warns her not to dwell on it too long because it'll lead nowhere. He ends up back at home staring like, "Wait, why did I think that?" And right then it clicks, letting him slip between different gardens. The boy frets that this new place is way too far, but he grins. Once he uses that skill, getting there won't be a problem. He'll pack food, make the trip, come back, and then the milk will find him. He asks the boy to come with him, and the kid clutches that milk like it's precious, then slips away through the teleport between the gardens. The girls snap around in shock when the boy suddenly pops in, and as he pours the milk, he reassures the animal that it can roam this place in total peace. Then they realize he's gotten even bigger since the last time. The boy can slip between gardens in an instant, so he pops back home for a moment, because it's just too convenient, like some unreal, mind-blowing gift. He says the giants must have already wiped out the monsters. Since they're here, he grabs the meat for a barbecue and goes straight for a snack. He's grilling up meat and waving the girls over. When they take a bite, their eyes light up at the flavor, and suddenly they're like, "Okay, outdoor barbecue isn't so bad after all." The girls gasp, something blooms out of nowhere, and every single flower in the meadow bursts open at once. Staring at that whole sea of flowers, they bombarded him with, "Did you do this?" And he grinned, telling the girls it was his way of thanking them, plain and simple. Sifa blurts out that it's wonderful, and when she says it, the milk practically sings, pouring through the flowers like pure joy. The main character sprints after him, yelling not to trample the flowers, and the man just laughs, thinking, "All of them did this for me, so now I've got this huge new garden." So he labeled the first garden first, and the second one second. Then he plucked a bunch of flowers and handed them to Larutzia. The main character explains that before he dives into real plant cultivation in the second garden. So he'd better figure out what to do with all the monsters the giants just wiped out, because those swamp creatures only spit out cheap ingredients, and processing them might cost more than they'll ever bring in. The main character is convinced he can just bark orders and toss the golems wherever he wants. Then the system snaps back, asking Gio if he wants to absorb those monsters. He breaks down what absorption really means, nods along as it finally happens, and the main character's left staring in shock, because every body is gone. The system pings him, "Level up." Fresh plants sprout out of nowhere, and he growls that it feels exactly like when he absorbed those magical stones before. He remembered people saying monsters carried magical stones in their bodies, and the moment he saw that, he realized the home garden must have sensed them too, swallowing the whole like it was hunting treasure. Gio blurts out that this is the proof. If he keeps mowing down monsters, his levels will keep climbing. The main character hits on an amazing idea. A tiny puff of smoke snaps into the air, and he mutters that he probably crammed in way too much. It's the perfume he snagged from Marlin to lure monsters in. Too bad she didn't look right. And ever since she came back from the castle, she's never managed to look any better. Then the main character rips a wall out, and it's finally go time. One wall vanishes with a jolt. The monster sniffs the air, locks onto the main character, and charges forward with a vicious growl. Then whips around in shock at how close they're getting and snaps, golems attack. With one thunderous swing, the giant smashed two bears at once, and the system immediately flashed, "Want to absorb the monsters," as he nodded without hesitation. He's relieved because the moment he thought it might work, another wave of monsters starts closing in and his plan pays off. First, the main character plots to bait the monsters so the giants can wipe them out, and it works. And then boom, the garden starts swallowing their bodies, and just like that, his garden levels up on its own. All it takes is swapping the scents at the right time. By now, Stina was supposed to hand him magical stones, but if he does this instead, he can crank the garden's level up himself. He can't stop smiling because that gift keeps getting more and more useful. And now he's itching for the next monsters to come crashing in faster. A few days roll by, and the action hits several dozen kilometers west of Arsal. In a deadly monster-filled forest, a handful of people brave the wild and set up camp. They swear this time went perfectly, so everyone tells him to dig deeper next run. But he shuts that down fast, insisting caution is the play, because he wants to watch how the whole thing unfolds. He knows this place is a death trap, but the moment they push deeper, the mana gets so thick it feels like choking. And now he can't stop wondering what kind of monsters are lurking in the dark. Suddenly, every monster bolted in the same direction. Nobody knew why. The boy swore it felt like an underground tremor, while the girl went still when she heard something crackle out of the forest. They think the whole ground is trembling, then they realize it's just someone sprinting straight toward them. Panic erupts as the monsters barrel in like a roaring flood, and everyone scatters to survive. This is a full-blown invasion. Up on top, they spot how many monsters are pouring in. Things are already going bad. If that column keeps rolling, it'll slam right into people, so he grabs the guy and orders him to run ahead and warn everyone. If they keep sprinting straight east, our soul is about to get ripped out of us. Elizabeth drops the seal and her signature with a rush of relief. Paperwork is eating her alive today. The man claims it's booming business deals and fresh territorial contracts, but Elizabeth snaps back that it's just Arsal's phantom growth, then grins and insists they go straight into the dungeons. The man tells her, once you seal every document, you'll be able to do it, and then drops the news that the report she asked for is already here. She asks if it's about the swamp, and the man nods, saying the military probe found that the whole place has been wiped out into a barren wasteland, and she can't believe it. They swore that the place had gone totally empty. No plants left, no monsters lurking anymore, and the second they got close, an invisible wall slammed shut and stopped them cold. Honestly, it's still a mystery what it's supposed to mean, but my guess is someone deliberately dropped an obstacle there to stop whoever's coming next. She picked this spot as her reward. No fear of the servants' backlash, no worries, just a chance to see if they could handle it, and they absolutely crushed it fast. She's convinced Luruka is just as cunning as she is dependable, and she's flat-out sure Sifa and the others won't be able to hurt anyone. They don't rush to conclusions, so they keep their eyes open, and she dives right back into filling out those documents. A man storms into the room screaming that a massive wave of monsters is charging toward their city from the west, and Elizabeth's jaw drops in pure shock. Meanwhile, the main character tears through another helping of monsters in his garden, then leans in and demands, "So that's it for today." So yeah, he wiped out every monster in the area, and somehow crushed his way up to level 31 like it was nothing. Once he cleared the 30th level, the garden's space limit started flashing a wild symbol. He had no clue what it meant, but it was a straight-up sign of infinity. When fresh cultures finally unlocked for him, he dug into the castle wall generator, because it's the very defensive wall generator at its core. Now he can crank the walls higher. Right away the system asks, "Want to build castle walls?" He slams yes, and a monstrous wall rockets up in front of him. The main character stares at those towering walls and can't help wondering, can they get even bigger than the walls inside our own soul? Honestly, those things barely belong in the garden. He rips them out and tells everyone the first harvest is right around the corner. The main character hears a noise, blurts out what's going on, and the whole crowd bolts, yelling that staying near the western gates is deadly. Everybody scrambles to hide, especially at the church, so one man rushes up and demands what's happening. And they tell him the truth. A procession of monsters is marching straight for the city. The soldiers have already slammed into defensive positions, so many that even the city's borders feel like they're in danger. Yeah, this place needs to be abandoned fast, and Gio knows it's all deadly serious. Sena and the others still went chasing adventure, while Gio can't carry the milk to the shelter. He tells them that if things get too dangerous, they'll straight up teleport to the second garden, then he says they're headed for the western gates, while he climbs the Mega Naked and checks what's going on up top. The main character scrambles up onto the golem, stares in awe at how tall it towers, then leans forward, his eyes catch something up ahead. He stares in disbelief at the endless monster parade and those loud visibility broadcasts, because it looks like there are more than 1,000 of them marching in plain sight. The girl shouts for everyone to move now, promising they'll defend the city and its people. Then the crowd fires back. Will adventurers actually come to help? She wastes no time and sends the guild a request, but it turns out most are stuck on research. She's convinced this disaster hit at the worst possible moment because everyone's rushed off to the regions. But she won't drown in doom. 200 of their own soldiers are fully kitted with custom-made machine guns and armor. Every soldier's smiling, striding in fresh armor and gripping brand new weapons like they own the battlefield. The commander barks, "Hold formation." As they close in, sure, enemy numbers are everywhere, but they're charging in loose, scattered groups, not as one. Form up now, strike them with everything we've got, and keep them pinned so they can't break through. Then the humans and monsters clash in a brutal fight, and the girl can't stop watching, her heart's in her throat for her warriors. She's convinced they'll pull it off. Two warriors take down one monster, and once they feel how deadly that blade is, they'll start carving through 10 monsters. A brutal bear barrels into the warrior, and he whips his shield up to block the hit. Then someone rushes over, asking if he's alright, and he grins, saying the shield and armor took the damage and held firm. They prove the mithril is the real deal, solid, unbreakable, no room for doubt, while the mage squad lines up fireballs and unleashes power on power. Fireballs streak straight into the monsters, some are already dropped, and the knights are sure they can keep the line standing, but one of them blurts out the truth. Even so, they can't dodge the injuries. He blurts out, "Do you have healing herbs?" And they tell him the ruler stocked a huge stash for emergencies, then grin and add that they work just as well as mid-level potions. Monsters are back for round 2, another wave just hit, and this time there are way more of them. The commander snaps orders for the wounded to fall back, while the rear ranks lock in and brace to hold the line until the very last second. He knows it's a death sentence, and there's no way a medium-strength potion can patch up a wound this brutal. He begs for a potion, then slams it straight onto the wound. Right after that, the boy's body erupts into a brilliant glow. The wound is finally closing up, and the doctor can't believe this warrior bounced back so fully, like nothing ever happened. He's grinning like he just got handed a top-tier elixir, ready to bolt back into the fight, while the knights line up to smash the monsters. The doctors stared at the stunned guy and straight up decided that middle-class potion did it for sure. Marlon spits out that the crowd is unbearable, and Dennis snaps back that they had no choice. This city is pure danger. The girl screams to her mom that she's in agony, and her mom tells her to hang on, while Denise rushes in and demands what happened. Turns out she just fell. Denise tells her, "Don't cry, you'll be okay," then dabs a little potion on her wound and the pain vanishes. Dennis jabs a finger at Marlene and blurts that she's the one who did it. Then she gets thanked on the spot, hailed as a pharmacist, with everyone calling it absolutely wonderful. Denise refused to step into the shelter in that outfit, but the girl blurted out that there's water and food here, no need to freak out. So everyone thanked Alice for jumping in and helping. She's stunned to see Billy hauling a barrel, then he asks if everything's fine, so she shoots back whether Sifa is handling the adventurers. Business with Sinha and Annie right now, and when he nods, she finally lets out a long, relieved sigh. If she still can't spot Gio anywhere, the man shrugs and tells her straight. When things hit like this, he can't just stay home, he'll need somewhere else to sleep. She leans in and asks if he truly thinks the city will survive, while he can only pray his armor and weapons actually reach the soldiers in time. Elizabeth knows the warriors are surviving on mithril armor and healing potions, but still, no matter what they do, they only carve through a fifth of the enemy army. She's not sure they can last if everyone rushes in at once, and right then special monsters start showing up. The battle lion, the bloody elephant, and the deadly scorpion are all A-rank monsters, and now we've got to find out if this soldier can survive the whole brutal lineup. The girl gasps because that fighting lion is charging straight at the soldiers, right past them, since they don't even spot it. They spot him and shout that they've gotta intercept him. Then he lunges in, smashes right through their team and wrecks their equipment. Suddenly, Elizabeth bursts in, swings once, smacks the lion down and rips her warriors from danger. The boys gasp at it, then yell at the ruler to watch out, because this monster isn't like the others at all. The warrior snaps at her to get out, because the front lines are a death trap, but the girl gets it and she can't keep standing by anymore just watching. Suddenly, a bloody elephant storms into view, charging straight for the gates, and the girl's eyes widen as she realizes it's not just passing through, it's trying to smash them down. He forced the gates to bow and the crowd's screaming that he shattered their ranks. Now they want him chased off, but he's just too massive to stop. The girl realizes that at this speed, that monster horde is about to flood her entire city. He sees it plain as day, things are sliding downhill fast. The soldiers used to have the edge, but now it's only a ticking clock before the monsters smash through, so he grabs his chance and bolts out of there. Gio can't stop wondering if he can really just stand there while the city he grew up in falls apart. And that massive horde could steamroll even the toughest shelters. The main character grins and says, "I've got one more thing, are you in, Milka?" He cuts straight through the path between the gardens to reach the second one, then bolts off into parts unknown. The man hauls himself straight up the wall and the system blares, asking if he wants to move the garden. He nods, then barks an order at the wall, move straight, and the wall obeys, sliding right along with him in perfect sync. Santa snapped her head around, sensing something off, and worry flooded her eyes. Sifa demanded what happened, and the other girl shrugged, "Nothing, I just swore I heard a bump." Right then, another girl started asking if it was really true. Then she pushed them to go deeper today, and the girls groaned and agreed anyway, still craving a quick way back so they could get their hands on Gio's signature dishes. Ruins sprawled everywhere, and then someone yelled that everything was spinning out even faster, until the system snapped that this was the absolute maximum speed. The stranger shoved her to hush up and sprint anyway, because yes, this was still the maximum speed. Geo yelled at Milka to cling on as tight as she could, because they were blasting through the area at full speed, and the hero snapped his gaze upward. Smoke curled ahead, and he shouted that he'd spotted a whole procession at the western gates, packed with soldiers. If they caught sight of his garden, that would be a disaster, but right now, he couldn't afford to panic. He shut down the garden's concealment system and demanded it hide only him, then the system confirmed the concealment was off. Still, some of the garden stayed shrouded, and the boy suddenly felt something, staring down at his own hands. He said maybe this'll be enough, but even he didn't know how much. Milk meowed like she totally approved, and then the young man snapped, ordering them to move forward. The soldiers lock in, braced for battle, and they all know this is bad. Those gates are barely hanging on, almost shattered to pieces. Beyond the gates, a ferocious war tore through the battlefield, animals clashing with humans, while soldiers screamed that they couldn't fall back and regroup. Surrender was out of the question. They had to cut down as many of those creatures as they could, because the animals were fighting with pure, relentless rage. The girl clashed with the scorpion, then spat curses at these monsters like it was personal. She thinks they're still closing in on them, and once this hits, they won't be able to stop them anymore. She stares at the gates, barely hanging on. Suddenly, a scout spotted something far out, and the girl caught his startled reaction. So she demanded answers and instantly guessed it was monsters. He shrieks that it's a wall. Then it barrels toward them at insane speed, and everyone's frozen in pure shock, not knowing what to do, while the girl just stands there, mouth hanging wide open. She knows nothing at all. No clue how that wall is even able to move, or if it's hunting them to crush every last one of them, or if it's a foe, or maybe it'll flip and become their ally. Out of nowhere, a voice barked from behind the wall, telling them to sprint now. Everyone is stunned because the wall is actually talking. The girl clocked them as their ally, then snapped, "Retreat," and shoved them back fast. The soldiers snapped to attention, then bolted the other way as the monsters surged toward them. Geo's grinning looks like the message finally came through. Now they've got one job left: smash their way through these monsters. Before we could smash through those gates, we had to sprint over there and slap up a wall to stop the advance. Full speed, no hesitation, exactly on his command. The wall slammed into the monsters at full speed, and the hero was moments away from tearing through them like a wrecking ram. The animals shrieked and snarled, then burst off in every direction like something just ripped the calm away. Right then, the wall slammed to a stop just a few meters from the western gates, and the hero threw everything he had at it, while the girl and the knight stared, hanging on every second. A massive farm suddenly cut in right at the edge of the city. She realized she'd frozen in place, and around her, everyone just stared like they couldn't make sense of what had happened. The scout screamed that the strike had just wiped out nearly half the monsters, and the ground was piled high with lifeless bodies. The soldiers erupted into cheers, joy flooding them all at once. People finally catch their breath, stunned by the impossible, and knowing they're alive after taking on nearly 1,000 brutal monsters. The girl blinked in disbelief, because this felt like a true miracle, and the wall seemed to grow even taller right before her eyes. Huddled behind the other half of the wall, Geosize has managed to hold them off, but he can't see a single thing on the other side. As the wall shrank before her eyes, the girl clocked it. Then the monsters surged up, and she didn't have a second to process what was happening. A massive elephant slammed to a halt and blared a trumpet so loud it shook the air, and the young man's heart sank when he realized one of them actually survived. That night, you could tell this monster didn't break, no matter how the western gates were sealed behind that wall. The elephant started marching straight for the wall. Right then, the knight clocked it, and Geo did too. So he snapped his fingers, and the elephant finally stepped through. The monster smashed straight through the wall, and the girl and the knight stood there stunned, utterly bewildered. An elephant suddenly stumbled into the protagonist's garden, and he stood there completely clueless about what was happening. But the main character shut that down hard, took control on the spot, and commanded the megagolems to wipe out the monster. They pounded him until it stopped, and Milk declared the threat was finally gone. Ju hatched a plan. He'd lure the last living monsters into the garden, then unleash the exact same fate on them. The giants keep clawing their way through battle, still taking on those monsters one brutal fight at a time. One strike landed on the lion, the next smashed an insect, and the third slammed clean into the bull. The girl and the knight stared wide-eyed as the battle erupted, and they could hear every brutal clash in the air. The girl stared as every monster that slipped through the walls lay dead on the ground, and then the scout blurted that a giant golem had shown up and wiped them all out, leaving everyone else completely baffled. Geo said they wiped out most of them. Sure enough, a few monsters were extra brutal, but just like clockwork, the golems crushed the rest too. The young man lets out a relieved smile, convinced the whole mess is finally over and the problem's been shut down for good. Milk snapped awake and hissed, eyes locked on something far off. Then the boy demanded answers, and in the distance a towering silhouette rose into view. Suddenly, a monstrous titan ripped through the air out of nowhere. and the hero had zero clue who it even was. The knights erupted, shouting that it was Atlas, no regular Cyclops but a higher-ranked monster with power beyond reason. He rolled in from the west with the monsters, and at just 10 to 20 meters away, he loomed so huge it was unreal. And the girl instantly knew what that kind of power could do, since monsters weren't just beating people, they were ready to crush cities. People finally clocked it. This monster was the whole reason the march was happening. Gio's hands started shaking. Everything's gone bad, he muttered, staring in horror. He had no clue how to fight something this massive, so he slammed the plan down. Fortify the wall's defense. Then the creature smashed through his defenses, ripping out huge chunks of the wall and hurling them back as it screamed like it was tearing the world apart. Then he slipped through the wall like it wasn't even there. The main character hurled the golems into battle, daring them to fight. Then the monster clocked them and snatched one by the head, and its massive hand was big enough to swallow the golem's head whole. Then he hoisted the thing up and slammed it down until its head cracked, while the young man stared in disbelief, thinking his giants couldn't possibly stand a chance against that monster. Right here, the Cyclops locked eyes on the young man. Gio closed in on him, and the boy clocked it instantly. Then Gio realized he could break free by slipping between the gardens with his ability. If he makes that move right now, the whole city goes up in flames, then it's too late. Stop panicking about consequences and remember this, his life comes first, no exceptions. He couldn't do a thing to her until the system flashed a notification, absorb monsters. The hero blurted no, not now, and then it hit him. He glanced over the pile of bodies sprawled nearby. The Cyclops kept closing in and the young man finally snapped, all right, I'm trying it. If it failed, he'd bolt. Then the system flashed an option to gulp the monsters up again and the hero nodded and agreed. The monster absorption finally kicked off, and that massive beast had no clue what was happening to it. They've raised the whole home garden level, and now fresh new plants are ready to be planted. The system flashed the news that the young man had mastered a brand new skill, crafting a Giga Guardian, built right off the Mega Guardian technique, and joy lit up his whole face. His gamble finally paid off, but it would have all been useless if he couldn't bring down this monstrous behemoth. The system lit up with one answer, use the Giga Guard, so the hero turned to her and demanded she do it. Earth started to take shape, and the Cyclops just couldn't wrap his head around it. The girl clocked a towering figure beside the monster, blinked in confusion, and guessed it was another golem, because what else could it be? He was massive, straight out of Atlas himself. The Keeper and Atlas locked eyes, and the air suddenly felt electric. Gio bellowed at his golem that he'd make it, then slammed down the order, crushed that Cyclops. Gio rode right on Higga's shoulders, and their golem strength clashed head-on with a massive Cyclops called Atlas, both of them trading blows and fighting it out on equal ground. The girl and the warrior lock eyes as they witness something so unbelievable it steals their breath. One of the warriors swore that their city, Arsal, had been wiped out. Then the golem burst into the scene, stood shoulder to shoulder with them, and at the worst possible moment slammed the attacker to a stop, proving he's fighting on their side. The serious-eyed girl snapped that none of them could stop a monster, that colossal, from crashing into the city. Someone clasped their hands and started to pray, eyes locked on the golem, because he's begging God to make it win against Atlas, to stop that monster cold and save their home. Atlas and Golem clutched each other's hands. The Cyclops roared at him and Gig, the guard, squeezed in with everything he had until the ground caved in with a nasty dent. Gio rides up on the guard's shoulders and yells that he's got this, right as the golem's eyes light up, and the guard charges straight into the attack. He snaps his head around and hammers Atlas on the head with everything he's got. He recoiled instantly and fumbled toward the exact spot where the hit landed, trying to dull the pain. The guard wouldn't let him catch a breath. He rained blow after blow, and the monster had no way to fight back. Everyone's roaring as the giant throws down, swearing he'll pull it off. And Gio chimes in that as long as they keep that same fire, victory is theirs. Right before he can finish, he suddenly spots something. Rage flared in Atlas's eyes as he braced to smash forward. Then right on cue, he snapped his leg and kicked the guard, fast, brutal, and totally out of nowhere. In the next heartbeat, a huge chunk got smashed to bits. Gio and the knights were left completely speechless, staring in stunned wonder with their mouths hanging open. A giant crashed to the ground, and Atlas swooped down from above to pounce on him. The guard glared at him with pure menace, but the monster only grinned, and then started smashing the golem with bone-crushing punches. Gio was terrified of the giant, and he kept yelling for him over and over like his life depended on it. Atlas hammered the Guardian with brutal, powerful strikes, and the moment the damage landed, his gear started to splinter and fail. In the dark, the knights just stared in confusion as the Cyclops swung one devastating blow. Then the guard crumpled and blacked out. With victory sizzling on his tongue, Atlas threw his head back and roared at the top of his lungs, and one of the knights crumpled to his knees. He bragged that even a golem couldn't stand up to him, so yeah, for them this is the end. The girl kept her eyes locked on the brawl and said, dead serious, this fight isn't over yet. Out of nowhere, someone lunged at Atlas from behind and slammed a brutal blow into the back of his head. He rocketed back a huge distance and screamed, like the sky itself had to hear him. People couldn't even tell what was happening, and when the Cyclops lifted its eye to stare at the brave man who'd struck it, that one massive eye snapped wide in pure shock. Right ahead of him loomed a massive, completely intact Gigaguard, unbroken and ready. Everyone is stunned by this brand new golem, because right there on its shoulders, Geo is riding like he belongs. He grinned and promised he could make as many as he wanted. In the very next breath, he forged 2 more Gigagolems. Atlas started scanning the area in a panic, because giant titans towered all around him. Geo barked orders to seize the monster and shoved a finger at Atlas. Then the 2 giant brutes thundered forward, ready to obey their master. In the blink of an eye, the Cyclops got thrown straight into a fight, and no matter how desperately he tried, he couldn't slip away. The other 2 golems slammed into his stomach, hitting him hard. The monster let out a blood-chilling scream, and everyone froze with their mouths hanging open, glued to the chaos unfolding in front of them. The giants kept slamming the monster, right in the face, then the back, then the belly, and with every crushing hit, the crowd's hope roared higher while Geo watched it all with a stone-cold, serious stare. A life-or-death battle raged just outside the city walls. Atlas crumpled to the ground, utterly drained, and looming shadows swallowed the light as a violent shudder ran through him. The next second he crashed face-first into the ground. Geo and his golem squad had won, but they didn't even think about celebrating yet. Milk hit his eyes and he froze, stunned by what he was seeing. The knight stood in deathly silence and one giant finally snapped. He stomped up, jabbed the monster's cheek, and then got nothing. Not a twitch. The knights erupted in cheers. This wasn't just a win, it was their city's salvation. Everyone erupted in joy after crushing the massive Cyclops, Atlas. They actually pulled it off. Atlas is down. It's a damn miracle, and for once people are finally saved. One of the knights bursts in and tells Her Majesty the whole procession is stalled and that even Atlas, their leader, is dead. The girl just smiles. Turns out that Wall and those golems sealed our souls from harm. She figured they had to be on her side, but she couldn't shake the confusion. Why would they help her? Golems could be born or forged to guard ruins and treasures, and the real mystery was this. Who on earth had enough mana to craft something that powerful? Suddenly the wall lurched again, grinding aside as it slid away from the city. The knights caught on and demanded, "What do we do now?" But they stalled, unsure whether to sprint after her, while the princess shut her eyes against the dust that burst from the wall. The moment everyone blinked awake, the wall vanished like it was never there. Then she vanished for good, along with the golems and the Atlas. She'll deal with it later, but right now they've got to check every crack and assess the damage. The knights sprinted in to check the wreckage, but the princess just stood there staring at the wall, because the way it popped into view, then vanished, hit her like a memory of someone. But she shoved those thoughts down hard, because she refused to believe it could be true. The system blared the news, traffic mode is turned off. The hero tore himself down from the gallows, and the second his feet hit the dirt, he crumpled to his knees and let out a heavy, exhausted sigh. He was done. He still can't wrap his head around it, how a monster like this even showed up. At least Giga Golem has finally emerged in his skills, saving his luck. Milk darted up to the hero and started licking his face, and the boy grinned, thanking him like he'd earned it for cheering him on, feeling way too sure he could handle everything with the power of his garden. And now he finally sees how badly he messed up. He hauled himself to his feet, swayed hard, and urged, "Let's head home and get some real rest." Next morning, the whole city buzzed. Some cheered because the evacuation order vanished. Others couldn't wrap their heads around how everything turned out fine, and the only thing left standing after the chaos was that the western gate had been damaged. The kid asks Mom if everything's really going to be okay now. She nods, telling him the soldiers have wiped out every monster. And the hero grins, knowing the whole city can finally breathe and live in peace again. The hero burst into the cafe, then flashed a warm greeting at Alicia. She grilled him about why he skipped church, and he apologized right away, telling her he was stuck at another shelter instead. Trying to yank the conversation away, the kid blurted that, just like always, he'd brought the ingredients, and Alicia shot back that he didn't need to haul them in right after everything that happened. He shrugged and said he was used to grabbing it all every morning, like it was no big deal. Today he hauled in a fresh pile of eggs, and the girl couldn't stop saying his garden keeps shocking her nonstop. Alicia slid him breakfast and told him she'd cover it too. There was still plenty of time before the opening. The young man tried to refuse, but the girl cut him off and begged him not to say no. This small thing would mean everything to her because he always helps her, and she just had to thank him. In the end, the main character gave in and accepted her offer. After a while, the girl closes the distance, grips the train in her hands, and leans in to thank him for waiting. Then she slammed down her famous signature pancakes for them, smiling like she'd just cooked up magic. The young man caught the sweet aroma of the dish, flashed the girl a grateful nod, told himself to enjoy every bite, and then dove into the food. He started slicing the pancake and boom, it was so fluffy it practically begged to be eaten. Then he grabbed a piece and shoved it into his mouth. He swallowed that bite and instantly lit up with pure pleasure. The eggs were so tender and juicy they basically melted in his mouth. He dove into bacon, and the pancakes turned soft and tender while the bacon and eggs stayed crisp and loud. Then a gentle sweetness hit, followed by the exact right kick of salt, and the whole bite exploded into pure, incredible flavor. The young man leaned in and told Alicia that her dish was just insanely delicious. She practically lit up on the spot, grateful for the ingredients he'd grown in his garden. Then he started pushing back, insisting it wasn't luck at all and that it was her cooking skills that made the magic. He grinned and bragged that it tasted so good he'd eat it every single morning. Then the girl's face went bright red, because she instantly thought he was talking about marriage. Then he snapped back instantly like yeah, sure, but it was crystal clear he wasn't being serious. The young man took a first gulp of the steaming drink they brought him with pancakes, his mind still stuck on yesterday. After yesterday's brutal grind, sinking my teeth into soft, sweet, warm food feels like instant comfort. Sifa and Senna burst into the tavern, announced they were back, and Sifa hurriedly apologized for the chaos. While inside, the sister pulled her brother into a warm greeting. Gio asked if they'd just crawled out of the dungeon and they nodded, yeah, straight from there. And after that brutal trip they were starving, so they decided to hit this place first. Alicia practically rushed over and hugged the girl. She smiled and said they were probably starving, then she spun into action to cook something fast. Only Annie sat there confused, staring at the girl like she couldn't make sense of what just happened. Saifon clocked it instantly. The city looked totally different, and she figured that while they were gone, something new had rolled in. Gio confirmed her guess and launched into what happened yesterday, and the two of them leaned in with eyes as wide as saucers. And he sprang out of her chair the second she heard about the march of 1,000 monsters, and when Senna asked Gio if he was okay, he nodded. He was fine. And he couldn't believe it. Thank the stars the city held its ground, because Sifon warned it could have been wiped out in seconds. Alicia said the soldiers fought like demons. And she also heard that Billy, Safaha's father, was the one who handed them the weapons. They claim a giant wall suddenly burst from the sky and wiped out an entire swarm of monsters. Then colossal giants crashed in and duked it out with the leader of the march. Gio sputtered, choking on his tea. He knows it's all his fault. This story is tearing through the streets fast, and he realizes he got way too carried away. People started whispering that the wall and those golems were sent by the gods. Saifon just couldn't wrap her head around it, and Annie nodded along because yeah, it was still way too unreal. As Alicia carried food to the heroes, she admitted she felt a little skeptical. But the real fear in her chest wasn't doubt, it was the thought that they might never claw their way back to their old lives, or that her restaurant could be smashed to pieces. That's why she's over the moon to finally get peaceful, pleasant days back again, just like before. Senna took a bite of the food Alicia brought and she lit up as she promised, once someone helped her, that she'd keep eating this amazing meal. Right then he couldn't stop thinking, should he bolt and run or freeze where he stood? He grabbed another bite of pancake, flashed a grin, and nodded along as the girls all pressed in. Seeing the village light up, people grinning, lending a hand, rushing through their days, the hero finally felt it in his bones. He'd made the right choice. The heroes thanked Alicia for the food, and she told them they were heading to the guild next. Only Gio looked like he might slip out until someone snatched him mid-step. It was Annie she hit them with, we need to talk about something first. They marched into the boys' garden, and he whipped out an atlas to show them, only for the girls to gasp at just how huge this monster of a book really was. Sifa pushed the idea that Atlas should lead the procession, Annie insisted the hero was behind it, and Gio started firing back, saying the soldiers had every reason to struggle. He kicked things off by heading into the city past the garden, smashed the enemy army with a wall, then summoned a massive golem and crushed the main boss. He scratched his head and muttered that he'd only helped a tiny bit in the garden, like he was desperately trying to cover up what he'd really done. The girls' jaws dropped. Every single rumor they heard turned out to be real. Senna grabbed her brother's arm and demanded whether he'd been hiding in the shelter, and Seifa warned them that even if his gift was insanely powerful, this situation was still deadly. Senna looked at everything that happened and decided Gio had saved the city. She demanded what to do with the giant monster sprawled in the garden, and Gio snapped that he could gulp it down only to watch priceless materials vanish. Cypher bragged that the Atlas materials could rake in a fortune, and he was ready to sell. But Senna snapped back that it's a hard no, because dumping them on some buyer would basically scream that they already lost to him. Gio snapped into focus, then pushed the idea of talking it over with Lyrica, because he needed a magical stone, and if he used it to supercharge the garden, he'd score a solid level up. And he crossed her arms, let out a sharp breath, and admitted that life is turning more and more impossible to predict. The hero told himself it had to be nonsense. That fruit could never make him immortal, and that the next upgrade wouldn't just hand him flight, but his impatience still burned because he couldn't wait to see what the garden would pull off next. Laruka choked on a gasp, her heart slamming as she stared at the massive Atlas monster squatting in Gio's garden. Then she blurted out, "What happened here?" He told her that procession rolled through here yesterday. The girl pressed him again, and the boy couldn't believe she had no clue until she shrugged and said she'd been in another city. The hero kicked off his story. He'd slipped into the city through the garden, smashed the enemy line right into the wall, and then forged a towering column to wipe out the main boss, only for the girl to roll her eyes and snap, "Yeah, and that's, as always, total nonsense." What? So he stared at Atlas in his mind. Those massive bones, thick skin, and monster teeth were exactly the kind people hunted. The girl practically begged to buy it from him, and Gio's eyes nearly popped when he asked if she was really serious. She swore it was all true, even promising to handle the whole process of pulling the materials from him, and the guy just stared in stunned amazement. Sure, there's just one rule: he's not allowed to so much as peek at what's going on no matter what. And trust me, this place is nasty. The hero didn't even hesitate, he agreed instantly. Laruka swore she'd be done in an hour, and then Gio, right on cue, bolted home for the next hour, thanked her, and vanished at the exact right moment. The girl let out a shaky breath. She still couldn't wrap her head around it. Atlas was an A+ level monster, and the main character had just beaten it. "I can't believe this gift packs that kind of power. If a villain gets it, the whole city crumbles under their control, and maybe humanity pays the price too. And honestly, it's not a garden anymore because peace is completely gone from here." Luckily, Gio was the one who caught him, and she's got him figured as a carefree guy. But they can't lose sight of him because nobody is allowed to find out about him. She dropped that huge backpack on the ground, dove into the search, yanked out a package, and went full steam into processing. After a while, the milk started meowing, and right then Gio, still out in the garden, caught his friend's signal and realized an entire hour had already blown by. No one could possibly handle a beast that massive that fast unless she's still grinding at it. The guy dashed back to the garden and fired a question at Lee Ruck. Was the knot finally done? He cracked one eye open. Good news, Atlas was wiped clean, because the girl swore she packed everything into a magic bag, and the boy's jaw dropped in pure amazement. He figures there's not a single bloodstain left, but he still can't wrap his head around how she pulled it off. Lurica handed the man money for the materials, minus the processing fee, then dropped a bag stuffed with gold coins. The guy stared, shocked by the sheer amount, and she just said the materials were rare. Then she pulled out this huge magical stone, and the hero demanded to know if she really meant to walk away without selling it to him. She nodded, totally certain. The boy thanked her, and she flashed him a promise. Anytime he needed help, he just had to come to her. Gio heard that and jumped on it immediately, rushing to upgrade the garden. The magical stone got swallowed, and boom, the level skyrocketed from 37 to 43, a 6-level leap. On top of that, he unlocked a whole new remote cultivation skill, gained a fresh storage skill, and suddenly new plants started showing up too. He's doing remote cultivation, planting fresh plants anywhere, even when he's nowhere near the garden. Storage lets you stash a ton of stuff in one go, so your loot might stay fresh way longer too, which is exactly why you've got to try it. These new skills would have been a huge game changer, because they felt weirdly familiar, like you'd already seen them somewhere before, way back in your old life. The hero decided to dig into the plants, and boom, a massive list spilled onto his screen, packed with names he'd never seen before, so many that it was almost impossible to sort through, until he spotted a few upgrades hiding in the mix. Right then, his eyes locked onto something, an egg from a medium-sized monster sitting there like a ticking bomb. He remembered he'd hatched Milka from a tiny egg, so if he could grow a medium egg, it'd blow Milka out of the water. Still, he didn't think he had a shot, but curiosity grabbed the wheel and drove him forward. In a peaceful garden, the hero rose, stared at the system window flashing monster egg medium, and started wrestling with the next decision. The system pushed for the hero to raise a medium monster egg, and he didn't hesitate, he agreed. A massive face burst into view in the garden, staring everyone down. The hero stared at the giant egg, and just like that, Milka came rushing in. He paced in a circle around the egg, and the main character's eyes lit up. This creature looked downright happy, like it saw that egg as its little brother or sister. Then the animal beauted the egg, rubbing its head against it, and the young man told it, "Keep the egg warm." It nodded and agreed. The boy grinned and told him to handle it, leaving the decision to his hands, while the main character couldn't wait to see what monster would crawl out this time, itching to know right now. With the milk right beside the egg, the boy grabbed his curiosity and decided to study 2 more wild plants, ghost flower and cursed grass. The girl greeted Gio and prayed that the evacuation chaos from a few days back hadn't messed up his life. Gio nodded, relieved, and told her he was just happy that somehow nobody got hurt. The girl remembered how everyone's been whispering about that mysterious wall, and the golems that wiped out nearly every monster. While the hero's unease hit him hard, so he briskly steered the conversation away and asked the girl to judge what he'd brought. He handed her 2 plants, and she demanded to know what they were. He said they were fresh ones he'd just grown, then couldn't help wondering if they could be turned into ingredients. She leaned in, studying them like she'd seen them 100 times, straight from the identification guide. The huge, gorgeous leaves and their glossy skins practically shimmered with light, and the moment she laid eyes on them, it felt like they were holy. The leaf pattern looks so terrifying it'll crawl under your skin. The girl demanded to know what those plants were, and he shot back. Ugly one was cursed grass, beautiful one was a phantom flower. Then her eyes went wide in shock the moment the phantom name hit, and right then someone dropped something out of nowhere. A woman stood in the doorway, dumped a box of test tubes onto the floor and stared at the man like, "Tell me you didn't bring something unthinkable again." Marlon strode up to the flowers on the table, and the young man's gut twisted. He couldn't tell if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. The girl asked what he'd want for it, and Gio just shrugged. He wasn't trying to sell anything, he only wanted to know what it was for, so he'd hand it over. The girl got it instantly, but Dennis couldn't believe the hero was giving away those plants so effortlessly. Marlon snatched the flowers, promised she'd meet him at her spot, and left Denny's to handle everything else. Dennis nodded along as Marlene named her leader, and when the figure slipped away, Nikolai watched her retreat and muttered that he never expected to see her this serious. Yet the girl just said it wasn't surprising. She yanked out a giant tome and tore into the pages, flipping fast and hungry, hunting for anything she could find about the ghost flower. When she finally found what she'd been hunting, she learned this phantom flower was a super rare plant used to brew a powerful elixir. And the young man, hearing about it for the first time, blurted out which elixir they meant. Dennis shot back that it's an elixir, this mysterious drink that claims it can cure every ailment. This potion can wipe out deadly ailments that other brews can't touch, mental disorders included, and even hereditary diseases that run in the blood. A young guy asked, "Is it any good?" And she nodded, but then she dropped the real bomb. You can't buy that plant anywhere, and if someone eats too much of it, they say they could become immortal. The main character felt crushed by the talk of immortality. He remembered Annie swearing she'd grow a fruit that would make him immortal, and Dennis shutting him down with a flat-out. She doesn't believe it's real. Phantom flowers only grow in truly sacred places, and you're lucky to spot even one plant once every few years. So when the hero figured that out, he knew those elixirs were worth a fortune. She can't believe he actually found that mythical herb, so she asks how, and he just smirks, saying it's a secret. But the cursed herb never gets a single mention in the book. That young guy said Marlon was trying to whip up an elixir, and Denise nodded, then admitted she thinks it's going to be a brutal fight to make it. But she's sure Marlene has the experience to whip up this elixir preparation with confidence. She slammed a stack of books onto the table and said she never dreamed the day would come when her own hands would grab them. Because for that phantom flower, she's swearing on her honor as a pharmacist that she'll brew the perfect elixir. Back then, Gio was hustling in his garden, growing all kinds of crops, and told everyone he'd planted those rare plants in his second garden. Turns out that move was the absolute best choice. No one's watching here, so he can finally breathe easy and nurse that monster egg to safety. Milk stays right beside it, keeping it warm as it lies there. I planted some rare stuff, so let's start growing right here. Magari medium grass, Shiyu medium, a bunch of medium grasses plus that cool medium grass. He realizes he can't let those ghostly flowers and cursed grass keep blooming, and he remembers Dennis's warning. Those things show up only once every few years, and he's already pulled in a whole bunch of them. A few days slipped by, and now he's desperate to see how Marlon's doing with the elixir work, while Gio finally returned home, where Senna met him at the door. She leaned in and told him she was heading out to chase real adventures. A young man demanded, "Did you grab all the potions?" And she waved it off, smiling, "Don't worry, I went to Marlene for them yesterday." Then the hero pressed, "Did you see her?" She shook her head. Denny's leaned in and told her, "Marlene's tied up right now mixing something important." Santa had his hand on the door and was seconds from opening it when someone suddenly popped up on the threshold. It was Dennis. She snapped bright red, then hurriedly apologized to Gio and Senna for showing up in the day. Senna clocked that the girls dressed totally out of the ordinary today, so she demanded where her maid outfit had gone, only for the girl to admit she felt embarrassed to strut around the city in it. And her brother and sister shut that down fast, insisting nothing was wrong and that the outfit fit her perfectly. Gio grinned and said the outfit fit her perfectly, then Senna waved goodbye and vanished to chase new adventures. The main character pulled Denny's in, served up a cup of tea, and as she settled onto the couch, she asked if Marlene was still working. Denny's nodded along as the girl confirmed she was. Since that day, she's grinding late every single day, and for the first time, she finally sees Marlene locked in like never before. Gio can't believe she poured her heart into brewing that elixir, because if it's made the right way, it'll blow ordinary potions out of the water. The man called Marlene strange but somehow brilliant, and Denny's nodded right along. Yep, the pharmacist was definitely quirky, no question. The girl can't shake the fear that her health is slipping if this keeps up, so she decides to jump in and help with cooking, only to realize she barely knows what she's doing. She shows up to demand answers, how he can help her, and Gio can't shake the guilt, convinced he's partly to blame for her condition since he's the one who brought that ghostly flower into the picture. The young man gets it even worse than Dennis. He's totally helpless. Then out of nowhere, a crazy idea sparks in his head. He grabbed the fruits he'd grown in his own garden, then decided to whip up a late-night snack just for her. Denny's grilled him for where he got all that food, and the boy snapped back that he grew it all right in his own garden. Then the kid leaned in, took one whiff, and went wide-eyed because the fruit smelled amazing and looked razor-fresh. Gio swore that the tastiest food can light up anyone's mood, and he's convinced Marlene will love what he makes for her tonight. So when Dennis pointed to the bag on the table and asked what it held, the hero just grinned and said, "Flour." What? He planted wheat, and before he knew it, the fields had turned into flour. Denny's brushed the white powder and grinned that it might turn into something wild, then begged Gio for the kitchen. Gio didn't just say yes, he jumped in to help, and just like that, the guys fell into excited chatter. While he cleaned an apple, the main character told everyone Denny's was really kind, and the boy didn't even try to deny it. Because Marlene treated him like dirt, but he still felt in her debt and pressed her, "So what do I owe you exactly?" What? He tells me that when he was little, his parents vanished and left him behind, so he grew up in an orphanage where he had to claw his way through every lesson, while the place crumbled around them, and all he wanted was to help, so he hunted for a job day after day, but nothing ever worked. Right then, Marlene, still hunting for an assistant, snapped his name and told him he'd look absolutely incredible in a maid outfit. It was basically like this. He despised the outfit with his whole soul, but she paid so well he had to grin and bear it, and Gio could tell right away it was wearing him down. Marlene takes potion prep so seriously that countless people have gotten their lives back thanks to her, and for that, he respects her with all his heart. Gio grinned and told himself that if he ever said it to Marlene, she'd feel like she'd died and gone to heaven, so he swore he'd never tell her. Night has already fallen, but Marlene is still locked in his laboratory, grinding away on the potion. She twirls the flask with the elixir in her grip, flashes her medical skills like a pro. Then it fails again, crushing her hopes. Marlene hurls yet another flask of a failed elixir, leans hard on the table, and swears the proportions are right. Maybe this time she just needs to tweak the temperature. She's so close to her goal, and she's running on fumes. Dennis barged into the lab rocking a maid's uniform, and he leaned in asking Marlene if she seriously had to pull another late shift. The girl nodded along. Denny's told her to calm down and not overdo it, then said he'd bring her a snack for the night, asked her to eat it later, left it right by the door and walked out. Marlene stays frozen in the exact same pose, and then boom, this sweet pleasant smell hits her in the moment. She caught a mouth-watering aroma in the air, and there, right before her eyes, sat the apple pie Gio and Dennis had baked. Seeing it lit her up with inspiration, and she couldn't believe Dennis baked it just for her. Dennis's gift, artwork made just for her, fills the room and she can't believe it. She fights to keep it as a family relic, but right then her stomach betrays her with a loud, traitorous growl. She snapped back to reality and realized she'd totally forgotten to eat. So with her work brain still buzzing, she grabbed a piece of that pie, held it up in her hand and took a big bite. That first bite hit her like lightning, fresh, sweet, and way too delicious for her expectations. The fruits hit with a sweet, gentle kick, and that crust smelled so insanely good that she kept taking bite after bite of the pie. One bite hit her like magic. She couldn't believe how tasty it was, so she grabbed another, then another, and kept going. That apple pie didn't just quiet her hunger, it melted her exhaustion, and every sharp, tangy bite sparked new strength in her like magic, because she'd never tasted anything that delicious before. She devoured every last bite, balled up her fist, thanked Dennis, and declared she was brimming with energy. She's got to keep grinding until success finally clicks into place. Dennis, stuck in a maid's uniform, paces back and forth like he can't breathe. And then, someone walks into the pharmacy and calls out to him. It was Gio. He grabbed the boy and asked how Marlene was doing, because Gio's fear was screaming in his chest. Denny's then reassured him that she'd finish the potion any minute now. The hero shot back, asking if those words were real, and the guy answered that it looked like she loved the pie and that the work was going great. Then, out of nowhere, the lab door burst open. Exhausted, Marlene stumbled out of there, gasping like she'd run a marathon, and Gio and Dennis immediately bombarded her with questions, panicking at how wrecked she looked. The girl lifted her gaze and told them, "I brewed this elixir with our ghostly flower," and the boys erupted with joy, showering her with praise. She just smiled and said, "I never could have done it without you." Gio and Dennis were finally grinning. She'd cracked the elixir for every ailment, until Marlene cut in, smiling, and revealed the real twist, a true love potion. The boys were absolutely stunned. Gio spilled the secret to Marlene. She'd cooked up a love potion, not Carol's elixir, and as soon as Marlene clutched the jar to her chest, her eyes lit up. She'd been craving something like this for ages. Inside were haddo beans, musk extract, ground jichet grass, and just one drop of cursed herb extract. The guys were totally stunned when she pulled out the cursed herb, and she just said it was a legendary plant, So rare it's nearly impossible to track down, and when the main character handed it to her, she couldn't even process what she was seeing. Dennis couldn't believe how hard she'd pushed herself on that potion, and then Gio leaned in, demanding to know about the elixir. Marlena yanked out yet another bottle and told Gio and Denny's she brewed it during the break, and both of them froze, because she'd just pulled off a potion that was so powerful it felt impossible, like the exact miracle they'd been talking about. The girl nodded, yep, it was real, and that meant she couldn't just shelve it in the store anymore. So the main character stepped in and offered to sell it to her. She told me that in the capital's auctions, elixirs sell for a mind-blowing 50 million gold, and yeah, they've even sparked wars. A drink that's strong isn't just for healing people, it can change everything. But the moment she spotted the right ingredients, she couldn't resist, she had to make it. And now it's in Gio's hands, he was completely blown away. While Gio was buried in studying that miraculous elixir for every ailment, Dennis was ripping into Marlene for not telling him earlier. But she never even heard him, only thanked him for the pie, and that was the spark that helped her whip up a love potion. She wrestled for what felt like forever to nail the perfect balance. Then it worked insanely well, and the boy quivered as he demanded, terrified, what she planned to do with the potion. She told him she'd slip Denny's the potion to drink. Then they'd finally let loose and have a real good time. The boy bolted out, screaming he'd never touch that potion again, and Marlon sprinted to close the gap, while Gio had already stormed out of the pharmacy clutching the magical drink. He thought one dumb mistake had to be the end of it. Then bam, another one hit, and he never even realized how priceless those elixirs were as he stared and let out a breath. He wandered down the street, convinced he'd probably never, ever need to use this elixir. In the ruins dungeon back then, the girls were sprinting for their lives, chasing escape from something that was hunting them. And he screamed that everything was about to blow up and shoved the girls into hiding. Then the archers snapped their bows up and rained arrows. An arrow hit Annie and Safi freaks out over her friend, but Annie shrugs it off. Just a scratch, promising a normal potion will fix everything. Cindy screamed that people were up ahead, and 3 men burst out from behind the wall, one of them saying they'd already been spotted. The girls got hemmed in by a swarm of men, straight-up robbers no doubt. Senny blurted, "What do you mean monsters talk in the dungeons?" And Annie shot back that they were people, they just didn't look like any adventurers Senny had ever seen. Safi shot back that she had no clue who they were, but the moment they showed up, it was clear they'd come for them. Milk bolted and meowed in panic and Gio snapped, "What's wrong?" Because the boy was dying to uncover why the poor animal was so terrified. The milk guided the main character straight to the egg. A hairline crack split the egg and the hero knew something was about to burst out. Inside, sharp squeaks skittered around and the boy swore he could hear every single one. Milk kept pacing and meowing in a panic, like something was terribly wrong. When he hatched, this kid figured the milk would act just like him, so he tried to soothe his buddy, telling him it was all going to be okay. Then he offered to hype him up as he chipped away at the shell. Suddenly, the creature shattered out of the egg, and a beak shot through the crack, so the main character instantly figured it was some bird-like monster. Then the egg finally split open, and out rolled a squirming ball of wool instead. The hero's hope sank like a stone. The milk brushed the creature's skin for a split second, and the thing jolted, shuddering like it couldn't stand the sting. And then, right when everything clicked, it turned out to look exactly like a chicken, and the main character lit up with pure excitement. He told the thing it was adorable, like a giant, fluffy yellow chick. Then it waddled up to the boy and hopped straight onto his lap. The boy stared at it and thought, from the moment it hatched, that milk sure has ballooned, but he forced himself not to dwell on it right now. The boy grinned because the hatch went perfectly, no mess, no drama, just pure success, all thanks to Milk's devoted care. Now there was only one thing left. Name the little guy, and Milk meowed like a proud stamp of approval. First, they tossed out Chico, and the Milk instantly hated the idea. Then came Pipers, but the animal flat out refused that too, so she grimaced, shook her head, and shot down every name they tried. In the end, the hero had no choice but to start hunting for new options. Pippi popped into his head, Milk even seemed to approve of that name. And then the hero turned to Pippi, asking what she thought. Recorded positively, Senna spun around on her way out of the dungeon and demanded answers about that weird yellow ball of wool. She meant Pippi. Gio greeted his sister and told her no, it wasn't some fluffy toy. It was a chick with a tiny face, and she was right to think it hatched from an egg. He called it their new family member and hoped everyone would make friends with it. That young girl yanked Pippi closer and squeezed him into a tight hug, gushing that he was just too cute. Then Pippi squeaked out a soft, sweet little sound. Milk never lets her cuddle up to him, so this is extra sweet. After that dungeon disaster, when they got jumped out of nowhere, everyone suddenly felt like they were being hunted on purpose. There were around 10 of them and Parkit snapped, asking where the other girls were. The girl grinned and declared, "We won." But it turned out there were tons of them all week, and the real mystery was still looming, who they were and why the hunt was happening in the first place. Senna couldn't crack that question, And just when they tried to close the gap, monsters barreled in their way, somehow they slipped through and escaped, while a bunch of rude people were behind all the chaos. The hero felt this situation mirror Chasea's, and if there's even a chance it ties back to him, that spells trouble because somebody's working toward a goal. The man snapped at his friends, furious that those hardened bandits couldn't handle just a handful of girls. The men groaned and apologized to the wolf, because no matter what they did, they couldn't bring him down. And since their real target was a B-rank adventurer, they already knew trying to seize her by force was going to be brutal. Valka leaned in and asked them straight up if they honestly believed his plan was wrong. The bandit started spinning excuses and playing the victim, and the man in that tight coat erupted in loud laughter, covering his eyes with his hands like it was the funniest thing in the world. The bandits clocked it instantly. This guy wasn't attacking them with any plan, he was just furious to the bone. This dashing man wolf bared his grin and said, "It's time for a new plan and this one will be perfect." The bandits dropped to their knees and swore they were in. Once he took the crown as the Bard's leader, his boss dropped a chilling order. Go capture a girl named Safi, likely just for her looks, because that guy's obsession with her feels way too personal. Kazai, his predecessor, was yanked out as gang leader like he vanished overnight. And if Avalka isn't careful, he'll get the same brutal disappear treatment next. Suddenly, his grin burst across his face, and he told himself this wasn't supposed to happen. He climbed to the top of the criminal world with pure brains, leaving everyone else in the dust. This guy is way sharper than the one he's up against, and defeating him feels almost impossible. One of the knights faces the wolf and swears they'll make up for what they did in the dungeon, then begs for one last chance, promising it won't happen again. He laughed and admitted that last time he ignored just how weak they all really were, so he told them to own their mistakes and get ready, because next time he'd spell out the perfect plan. This time, they're going to slap a conquest bracelet onto the target. Snap it on once it's hooked up through that analog. It can't ignore the orders from the person wearing the control bracelet. A deadly one-time use magical item, so powerful it should have been illegal, he snagged from the black market. And the design was custom built. When the men saw it, they just stared, totally baffled. They got hit with the made-to-order question again, and he snapped back that since it's also meant to be an ornament, and the design is already so good, then the finished product should be even more flawless. So there's a real chance the one they're targeting will actually want to wear it. Meanwhile, the bandits are absolutely baffled by how ridiculous that sounds. The men swore everything was crystal clear and promised they'd kick off the plan right away. Then Valka dropped into a chair and declared his plan was brilliant, flawless, the real deal. Tonight they'll seize full control of her, and the bandits are already closing in around Sophia's house. They told him she's staying with her dad, so now they've got to track down her room. At night, wolf-led bandits crashed into Safi and her father's house, and the loud chaos yanked Safi awake. She bolted upright, convinced it was her dad making the noise. The moment the room's door swung open, the bandit jerked back hard and snapped into full alertness. Even with everything going quiet, the men still insisted someone might have heard them, so they had to finish the job before anyone woke up. Sifa slipped out in her nightgown. She glanced at the bandit beside her, and the moment his eyes landed on her beauty, his face flamed with a blush. He couldn't even get a word out. Suddenly, she snapped her mouth open, shouted stop, and in the very next breath unleashed her ability. The bandits froze in stunned silence, trapped by the spell, as the young woman strode right up to them. In the very next heartbeat, she whips the sword around and smashes the bandits right in the faces, sending them crashing to the floor. Other men hissed in rage. Then they chose their moment, charging her while she was unarmed. No backing down now, they had to grab her before it was too late. Safi barked out an order for them to bow, but those men froze again, rooted to the spot like they'd been nailed there. In the blink of an eye, the girl was suddenly beside a bandit, and she drove a punch straight into his stomach. Another guy tried to avenge his friend, but the girl stayed calm, without even looking back, swung her fist and nailed him in the face. Then she kicked off the floor, flipped into a somersault, and slammed into two opponents back-to-back. One of them screamed that the girl was wiping them out one by one right here in this tight corridor. They couldn't lean on their numbers. And as he talked, Safi kept driving her strikes home. In the blink of an eye, the bandits got wiped out, every last one. They were crumpled on the floor, panting hard when it hit them. This girl was terrifyingly strong, and then Safi's memory snapped into place. She'd seen these same people in the dungeon before. She tried to ask what they were and what they wanted from her, but the moment she spoke, silence swallowed everything. Then the men snapped, spun on their heels, and bolted at full speed. Billy, Safi's father, storms out of one of the rooms and demands who's making that nighttime racket, and Safi snaps back, shouting for him to come help. The man jerked his eyes open, and there was a bandit right in front of him. The man snapped that this was their opening, so they grabbed her father as a hostage and stormed to attack Billy, but Billy had zero clue what was happening or who any of them even were. Billy clocked a bandit charging straight at him, snapped his powerful arm tense, then swung it aside with a brutal throw right as the bandit tried to strike, and his fist slammed into Billy's arm instead. That punch hit like a cannon blast, slinging him backward for a long distance, while the other bandits just froze, staring in shock, mouths hanging open. Billy started rubbing his sore shoulder, and the bandits instantly had no clue what was going on. Safi let out a breath, then told him her father was a blacksmith in the army, and the man himself admitted that when the ranks got thin, he'd been yanked to the front lines. Billy clenched his fists, stared straight ahead, and swore he didn't know who they were, but they'd be delivered to the city guard no matter what. The bandits panicked, then bolted and vanished. But their escape attempt crumbled fast. Then city police hauled them in, and one guy just hissed before the officer said they looked like members of the Arsenal criminal gang. Billy swallowed hard and apologized for the fact that some people had to disappear, and now nobody knew where they were. The guard snapped at him, telling him not to say it. They were too grateful to even argue. They'd been hunting these answers for years. Safi finally let out a shaky breath. They still haven't said why they tried to break into the house, but the investigation isn't stopping. So the father turns to Sifa, asks how she feels, sees she's worn out, and tells her to go back to bed since she's just crawled out of the dungeon. She sprinted back into the room, and there it was, a flash of something shiny on the floor. She rushed over, grabbed it, and lifted it in her hands. It was a bracelet Valka had handed to the bandits, and the girl couldn't stop gushing that it was absolutely stunning. Right then, Valka shot up from his seat, stunned. His whole plan had blown up in his face. The bandits bragged that some of them slipped away, and Valka's hope shattered. He couldn't believe any of this was actually happening. He snapped that he'd handle it all himself and ordered them to bring the bracelet back right to him. The bandit shook in fear and stammered that it was probably still lost back in that house. The wolf burst into laughter and couldn't stop. He found the whole thing hilarious. Then he lunged at the bandit, seized his collar, and snapped that he wasn't laughing at all. He was done being made the joke. So the man stammered out an apology to his boss. Wolf kept cursing and yelling that those bracelets were outrageously expensive and that his flawless plan was ruined. Then, out of nowhere, the bracelet on his wrist started glowing. Volka clocked it instantly, but his brain couldn't catch up. Something about the control bracelet suddenly snapped into action. At that moment, Sifa dropped to her knees and pressed her back to the wall, totally stunned at what was unfolding. Her body felt wrong, like it didn't belong to her anymore, while the wolf stared at the bracelet, unable to accept what had just happened. The target snapped the submission bracelet on himself, and Cypher shot one last look at it. Then his eyes rolled back and he collapsed into a faint. Senna Jans bursts in, saying she's headed for yet another adventure, and her brother Gio shoots back, asking if everything will be okay after that brutal dungeon attack. She grins and insists they'll handle it. The young man nods and says he gets it, she's still a newcomer. But then he insists they must watch out for Sifa so she doesn't get pulled into danger. The sister agrees and they part ways. Hippie hopped onto Milk's back and squeaked. While the main character sits there thinking Sifa's become someone's target, he probably just can't stop overthinking it. He's terrified that nothing bad will happen to her. Then bam, the door bursts open and a wild gust storms into the house, and she blurts to her brother, "Are you a psychic?" Her eyes widen with worry as she blurts that the news is ugly, something terrible just hit Cypher, and the guy shoots up like he's been shocked. They sprinted to Seth's place, only to find a crowd already packed in, waiting for something to happen. Sifa huddles under her blanket, breathing hard, cheeks blazing red. Then Gio bursts in, grabbing her by the moment, asking what happened, and you can tell he's freaking out. Right there, Annie and the workers from Sifa's father's workshop gather around, all eyes on her. He demands to know what's wrong with her, assuming it's because she's hurt, or that it's some big, scary situation. Then tells the guy to calm down, but he's totally off and the hero clocks it instantly. She looks absolutely wrecked. Sifa shot her hand up and said the bracelet did it, and the young man stiffened instantly, because that thing started pulsing with a weird, unnatural energy. The girl says the second she put it on, her body sparked with strange sensations. Then it clung to her skin so tightly she couldn't rip it off. The boy demanded to know how it all started, and Billy took a deep breath, then spilled every detail straight from the very beginning. At the dead of night, bandits crashed in and attacked them. Gio, Senna, and Annie are reeling. Cypher just dropped the bomb that they could get ambushed in the dungeon, and Annie snaps back like, "We've been hunting you this whole time." Senna's eyes narrow because she can't shake the feeling that something is seriously wrong. Senna is furious the bandits waited until everyone passed out, then struck. Cowards. She snaps. Sifa shoots back that they were pushed away. The guys huddle and talk it through, saying it wasn't pointless since she's a rank B adventurer. Billy rubbed his beard and said they'd scooped up a few and handed them straight to the authorities. He figured that was the end of it. Then Sifa snapped on the bracelet they'd tossed aside, and the hero couldn't wrap his head around why she'd do that. She admitted he was so damn handsome she couldn't resist a second, and everyone nearby just shook their heads like she was making the dumbest choice ever. He snapped at her, demanding she be even a bit more careful. Sifa blurted out an apology, but her father cut in, saying he was done with bandits and done with this too. The main character demanded to know if the bracelet was cursed, and Billy snapped back that it wasn't, because that morning he'd grilled an expert to check it, and the expert swore it was a magical item. Senna had no clue what a magical item even was, so they told him it was basically an object packed with mana that could trigger spells, and his father swore it felt like it held serious power, yet they still couldn't figure out what it was for. And he swore that if this bracelet really belonged to that gang, then trouble was guaranteed. Every other adventurer, and even the workers from her father's workshop, nodded along. Sifa was dealing with something seriously weird, and if it kept going, she was going to end up in real danger. So she hurriedly apologized for scaring everyone, blushed even deeper, and you could see her condition slipping fast. Everyone stared at her and worry hit them like a wave, while the hero, in total silence, slowly spoke her name. Gio is drowning in pain and she can't catch her breath. He has no clue how to rip off that bracelet, but he swears he'll find a way to save her. He asks Billy if a tiny healing potion can help her, then insists it won't erase the magic, but it's still worth trying instead of sitting around doing nothing. And he told the travelers she had something special, and Senna asked if it would actually be enough. Then the young man bolted home to grab his supplies. One bandit burst into the hideout shouting that the target finally had the bracelet on now, while Volko sat there on a chair and the rest of the crew erupted in cheers. The boss checked every word he said, and when he answered, he swore it was all true. She even double-checked it herself. It looked like she'd tracked it down and pinned it on her own shoulders. Maybe the design did it. One of the bandits watched and grinned, thinking everything was falling right into Volka's plan. Volga burst into laughter, sprang out of his seat, and said he'd seen it all before, like it was etched into his memory. He told her that once the bracelet clicks onto your wrist, it won't come off. And if you snap on a second, matching one, you take full control of the person beneath it. The bandit couldn't believe her luck, because her father just barely missed finding the bracelet first. He stares at the bracelet, smugly thinking everything went perfectly, like every single coin he paid was worth it for something that fancy. All that's left is to close in on the goal. Then she'll fully fold to him, he'll slide her right into the boss's world, and he'll cash in too with a massive reward. He yanked his hood up, stormed for the door, and declared that geniuses are always headed for victory, because now was the moment he'd finally go grab their little girl, the one who'd fallen right into his trap. Meanwhile, Gio tore down the street, clutching a box packed to the brim with all kinds of herbs. He was gulping for air and bragged that he'd hauled in every healing herb he had. Billion Gio shot back his gratitude, then asked straight up if those herbs would actually help. And he blurted that she'd already chugged every last potion, sure it would just refill her strength, even though it was from Marlin. If it was only some regular cold, she would have bounced back right away, so the hero dropped the box on the ground. He yanked out a bottle of miraculous elixir and thrust it into Sif's hands. He leaned in and dared her to try it. The potion glowed like a rainbow, but Annie's gut told her it wasn't made to heal, so she pressed, "What are you?" The main character shot back with something he can't even say out loud, but it sounds like it could work better than any normal potion, and honestly, it reeks of suspicion. The boy figures she might refuse to drink it once she realizes how priceless it is. But honestly, who in their right mind would just gulp down some mysterious potion without knowing what it's worth? I glanced at the potion and told her, if Gio says it's okay, then drink it. Every single person froze at her words, and Billy immediately blurted out, "Are you sure?" Because he really didn't want to be talking to a love potion. Gio's praying Sepha finally feels even a bit better as the girl takes the potion. Then she suddenly starts glowing, and everyone's left utterly clueless about what just happened. After Sepha gulped the potion, everything around her erupted into radiant light. Her body lit up everything like a blazing spotlight, and it was so intense that some people actually shut their eyes tight. Everyone froze on the spot, staring at her with their mouths hanging wide open. Kefa blurted, "I feel way better," and people started whispering that she'd actually bounced back. Then she leaned in and said she'd heard something absolutely wonderful. She shot a glance at the bracelet, spotted the crack, and just peeled it off like it was nothing, leaving everyone frozen in disbelief at what they were witnessing. Billy called it wonderful, and the others stared in disbelief, because somehow they couldn't wrap their heads around it, yet the bracelet was still totally intact. Her father pressed the council for an update on how she was feeling, and she exhaled, saying everything was finally perfect, no danger, no doubts. While they all sat there realizing he'd heard about the elixir's incredible powers, and somehow, it still blew his expectations out of the water. And he snapped him out of his thoughts and demanded to know what he'd poured into her cup. He stalled for a heartbeat, then finally admitted it was an elixir, and the whole crowd went wild with shock. Men refused to believe it was a real elixir, convinced it couldn't possibly be the kind of magic strong enough to do something like that. And he yanked the boy by the shoulders, stunned he'd even touched something like that, and demanded why he'd claimed CIFO was cursed. while Sini pressed him, asking if that elixir was really so special. And he shot back that it's a legendary elixir, one of those myths that's said to cure every disease, stitch up any wound, and even fix whatever's gone off in your body. Billy said that elixir could even crush whatever secret power the bracelet was messing with. Then he looked at the men like, "You've got no clue what to do next," and called it a real miracle. With shock still hanging in the air, it was actually smart he didn't spill the news right away. Sifa stepped up to the man and asked if he needed something to drink, because somehow he still might be useful to someone. He flashed a grin and nodded, then said with total honesty he hadn't even considered taking off the bracelet. The girl figured it had to be pricey, but the boy shook his head and insisted it wasn't all that expensive. It was basically a garbage pile, but every bit of it came straight from the garden, so it was free. And he couldn't even bring himself to explain that lying now was the better play. One guy shot his hand up and blurted that he'd spotted this elixir at an auction ages ago. It sold for around 5,000 gold coins. He couldn't even wrap his head around why the guy was saying it, because whoever was in this room clearly knew what it was really worth. People called it pure madness because he'd poured so much into Sifa. Billy pressed him, asking if he was really that desperate to save her. Sifa just smiled and promised she'd repay him, even if it took her entire life, and the hero suddenly felt like things had only gotten worse. Senna couldn't stop wondering where his brother snagged that potion, and everyone else leaned in too, because the second that guy saw the obsession spreading, he knew this was slipping completely out of control. He shot back that it was a commercial secret, and when Annie let out a heavy sigh, she told him to drop it right there. CFA's status cleared, so they're calling the incident closed, and we can talk about everything else later. Kefa broke into a smile, the men shot each other quick looks, and they all nodded along with the girl. The good news hit first. She was fine now, so the girl thanked them for everything, then those men grabbed their tools and got to work. The main character let out a huge sigh of relief, finally glad it was all over, and he hurriedly suggested they talk in his room, while the young guy hesitated, cheeks tinged with shyness. And he sits on a chair, legs crossed, and spills that this elixir is brewed from ingredients pulled straight from the Garden of Geo. Then the main character nods hard from his knees. The girl blurts out that Marlon has already brewed the elixir with their ingredients, just like she feared, and now nothing can shock her anymore. She tore into Geo for the mess he'd made, ripping him apart in front of a huge crowd that had no idea what really happened, then lecturing him to be careful, while Senna couldn't help but find the whole thing hilarious. The main character blurted out an apology for the chaos. Because he'd panicked and never thought it through, Annie only sighed and told him at least everything was finally settled. She snapped her head toward Safi and declared that the elixir was handed out for free, no payment, no strings, nothing due, just as the girl tried to protest. But Geo burst in, sided with Annie, and told her he could do whatever he wanted, because the only thing that truly mattered to him was that she was okay. Still, that "I can do as much as I want" line left Annie completely baffled. Safi stared at the guy and told him straight up that she got everything. Only because of him could she finally slip off that bracelet, and she knew she'd never truly repay him, so she grabbed his hand, locked eyes with him, and promised she'd do everything he wanted. The hero's cheeks flared red, nerves crashed over him as her words hit, and he couldn't stop himself from feeling totally exposed, like she'd do anything he asked. Just as they were lost in confusion, Annie burst in and snapped, stopping them dead. She warned Safe, "Don't say anything risky," and when he tried to get her to hand over something dark, the hero blared out that he'd never ask for that from her. And he thought maybe he'll ask me out, maybe he'll even make me his wife. But the hero shut that down fast, and Annie shot back, urging Safi to be his older sister instead. Geo told Teffy she didn't have to do it, and his gratitude hit harder than any gift she could have given. She flashed him a grin and swore she'd repay him one day, no doubt about it. At Sif's place, Annie snapped that she had a weird stalker vibe all over her, and told everyone she had to stay on guard. Sunny suggested they take a day off, and that job instantly dragged Annie's memories back to something. The wolf crouched in the dark alley, eyes locked on the target as he stalked in silence. He finally saw it, she was stunning for real. Then the hero bid his farewell and Valka snapped right back to his plan. He's convinced he can do anything he wants to her. In just a few heartbeats, he was suddenly standing right beside Sif. He fired back asking if she was a Sif, then she shot, "Who are you?" And the men grinned as they announced that from this moment on he'd be her master. Then he grabbed the girl by the hand and ordered her to come with him. But she didn't react at all. Sifa only challenged him, asking why she should even go with him. Valko was left utterly baffled. He tried once more to order Sif to come with him, but she flat out refused. Confusion gnawed at the man's gut. He couldn't wrap his head around how she could possibly refuse. He ordered her to spin around 3 times and bark like a dog, but she just froze in place, still refusing to move. While he stared, baffled because that service bracelet was supposed to make her obey every word he said. He spotted her hands, and his heart sank when he realized she wasn't wearing the bracelet. The man snapped to the truth this couldn't be happening. He figured the servants had tricked him because the bracelet was simply gone. Billy spun toward Sypha. He leaned in and asked the girl if she'd mind while he melted the bracelet, and Valka instantly recognized his own bracelet. Billy recognized the service bracelet, only to realize she hadn't been wearing it at all. Then he spotted a shady guy and demanded to know what was up with him. If he grabbed that bracelet, he'd get another shot to slide it onto her wrist. He even claimed he was just a passerby. Then he begged the truth. A beauty like that shouldn't be melted down. It'd be smarter to sell the bracelet to him. Billy stared at his daughter and said, "I can't do this, because that dangerous magical object could get someone killed." When his daughter slipped it on, she couldn't pry it off alone, so they finally wrestled it away, and Valka's whole world just snapped into anger. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. She slid it on like it was nothing, then snatched it right off. It made zero sense. How the heck did she pull that off? Sypha thought she had him figured out, then clocked it. His bracelet looked just like hers, and Valka could feel it. She was getting ready to suspect him. Valka threw one last glance at the service bracelet, then realized he had to step back for now, and he immediately apologized, telling them it was time for him to go. Billy and Sifo stared as the stranger strode right past them. The robbers snapped their eyes to the door, and then boom, they heard the unmistakable noise from inside. A wolf slid up to the door. They asked how he was holding up, and he snapped that everything was about to fall apart. The servants froze, not knowing what to say, staring at the bracelet locked on his wrist. Then the man yanked off his hood, claimed the plan was flawless, and before he could finish the thought, he erupted into laughter. "Picture this, I'm about to snatch a magical item, yeah. It sounds insane, but the ride's far from over, because he's already cooking up a new plan while the bandits back their leader like it's war." The man stared at his own hand and snapped that the bracelet was dead. Its power gone, so now it was nothing but junk, and just like that, Valka dropped to all fours and bowed his head. "This bracelet cost a fortune." Cypher stood by the window, stared at the miraculous elixir bottle, and let out a smile. Senna lay there and whispered to her brother that if he brewed a pile of elixirs, they'd never have to work again. He blinked in shock when his younger sister laid out her thoughts, reminding him point-blank that he'd told her he could do as much as he wanted. He admitted he'd said it just so Sifa wouldn't get upset, but the truth was he couldn't do anywhere near that much. Senny was already convinced you could coast through life as a lazy fool, but he couldn't ask Marlon to do the same. So he slammed the bowl of veggies down and snapped at his sister to get her act together or risk getting kicked out of the group, all while he drilled Annie's words into her head. That traitor from their crew, the one who stormed off to the capital, is already on his way back home, and the girl in the carriage cracks a smile, saying she's finally coming home to Arsal. Laruka flashed a smile at the boy and told him she'd come to seize the harvest. He flashed her a smile, told her, "I've got something new today," and pulled out a chunk of black ore. Laruka stared at it, eyes wide with shock, and blurted out, "Mantadamashatra." The young man nodded and asked her, "So, what exactly is it?" The girl leaned in and said it's a super rare metal. People call it the toughest in the whole world. The hero pressed her again, demanding to know just how hard it really is, and Likrua swore it wouldn't crack even if Atlas stomped on it, and that even dragons couldn't bite through it. Gio asked if it could be forged into a solid weapon, and Senna immediately pushed to grab a brand new sword, because her old blade had gone dull. The girl swore this metal wasn't just tough, it was legendary. It's so hard that even hammering it feels impossible, and in this world only a handful of blacksmiths can touch it, which left the hero totally unprepared for the nightmare waiting to happen. "Alright then, forge the blade out of mithril." Lyric snapped in agreement and swore it's perfect, because with high purity, that weapon can even be soaked in magic. The boy didn't have a clue what magic effects even meant, so she broke it down for him. This item could pack a bunch of powers, like casting spells with a flick of the hand or healing his wounds right after he wiped out an enemy. He just got a top-notch mithril, but it looked off, so he shoved it into storage and fired up the system to pull it back out. A lopsided chunk of mithril tumbled out of the storage, and Lyric's eyes went wide with shock. She couldn't stop wondering if this mithril was the real deal, while the hero mulled over how it felt so wrong, so strange and bad. Before, mithril always shimmered with a soft glow and looked breathtaking, but this time the girl snapped it. It was the exact opposite. She says that if the mithril is junk, its mana bleeds out and starts to glow, and the hero chimes in. Mithril that never glows at all is 100% pure, something that just doesn't exist in nature. The hero strides down the street locked in his thoughts, convinced Laruka is the real wellspring of knowledge, so he tells Billy to craft a sword from pure mithril. Suddenly, he clocked a girl in a hat hanging near the forge, eyes locked on the blacksmith as he pounded steel. Right now, men are busting their backs, sweating buckets as they grind through the work. The boy sneaked up behind the stranger and spoke to her. She jolted, then screamed in shock. The kid instantly blurted out apologies for startling her, saying he only wanted to check if she needed any help. The girl stared at the boy and snapped, "I'm not strange, I'm Cypher's way," and she came to him. He told her she just got called for a mission, she's not home, and the girl nodded like she finally got it all. The stranger thanked him, begged his pardon, then bolted like a streak of lightning before he could even react. The young man sat there stunned, thinking maybe this girl was truly off her rocker, but he forced those doubts out of his mind. Billy spotted Gio, and the moment the young man saw everyone was swamped, he hurried over and fired off questions. What happened and what Billy needed, only for Billy to say loud and clear that he wanted a sword forged for Senna. The man promised, "No problem, I've got you," since he'd helped them so much, and the young guy nodded and passed over the material. The man snapped his fingers at the words mithril, but when he checked it closer he paused and demanded, "Hold up, what kind of mithril is this exactly?" "What?" "That mysterious woman lurking by Sif's house is Sarasa." She then strolls down the street and snaps that she's been acting suspicious again. Every few years, wizards get yanked to the Capital Academy of Magic for a brutal qualification exam. She was so terrified she nearly blew it. Yet now she can finally walk out, take a breath, and head back home. Even without her, she's sure Seifa and Annie handled things just fine on their own. But without a proper mage, every adventure turns into a brutal uphill fight. In the guild's groups, she's going to pour every last bit of herself into it, because she just joined the guild. She slid onto the bench and figured, since she'd shown up a little early, she might as well go peek into Safa's family workshop. But don't miss it, the master's muscles hit like a statement you can't ignore. That brutal trip to the capital under the moon wrecked her. Then she finally bounced back, fully restored, and right when she arrived, she met a frail boy hanging around like he was totally on the master's good side. She sat on a bench, drowning in an indecent thought, then snapped her own cheek like a warning bell to clear her head. When a passerby saw it, he froze, stunned by the stranger's sudden slap. Sarah scanned what was around her, but her reckless habit was creeping in fast, so she took a breath and tried to focus on the hot sight of those muscles. Then she spotted two men by the window, chatting like they had something big to say. The black-haired boy leans in and asks his friend, "Are you sure you're good enough?" Like the question burns in his chest, maybe they should team up with someone stronger. But the friend just shakes his head, saying he doesn't need anyone. "Without me," he insists, "there's no point in even going on adventures." The dark-haired boy just didn't get what his friend was saying, so he shrugged it off and swore he'd turned into a traveler, ready to hit the road and chase adventures with him. The boy didn't even buy his own words. Then the blonde snapped at him, telling him not to say stuff like that. Sarasa just watched, grinning like she'd hit the jackpot, mouth practically watering as she reveled in every second of it. She scanned the guild floor and spotted more and more men she could slip closer to, starting with two young adventurers who were jawing passionately over something. Then an older fighter with a younger one hot on his heels. The girl crumpled to her knees, drowning in self-hatred, then finally confessed she didn't just like muscles. She also couldn't help stealing looks at men with those scandalous stares, and her face burned red the moment the words left her mouth.